This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Hey, look at that, everybody. Back with Colleen. I thought I would just quickly have her face pop up without anything. She's like, oh. But yeah, she's back on. I don't know if you can, everybody's known you from last time, but Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, I guess you're a forensic genealogist, but you worked for, you started the DNA Project. But even before that, right? You started Identifinders, right? I'm never sure if I quite got it in order, but I think that's it. Oh, by the way, I bought your book off of Amazon. Are you muted? You can say something. Say something.
Yeah, you told me not to say anything.
No,
so
I said just while the intro
I'm not
was.
saying, hey,
No,
you told me not to say anything, everybody. So I'm supposed. You didn't
No,
didn't say to start talking.
No, listen. She's making it up. I told her to not talk when the intro was playing. Okay. But anyways,
I didn't get that part. I couldn't hear you because the intro was playing.
Yeah. Well, I bought that the book, one of your books off of Amazon. Not the one that was like $180. The forensic. Do you have your own channel there where you're selling books?
Wow. No, I don't. I have my website. I sell it there. I sell it on Amazon. Wherever.
Well, you should send me the link to your Amazon.
Email me.
Yeah. Send me your link to the Amazon, and I'll put it in my community post. All right.
Hey, I'll have to get it. Amazon sells it. You can just search on Amazon. They buy it from us. They're our distributor.
Okay, but they're not.
You can buy it there. Okay. You can write me directly.
Aren't some like secondary?
No, it's not mine.
Okay.
Amazon, allows other booksellers to sell. After you finish reading it, it's going to hang around, right? Some people want to sell those. So
that's true.
As proud as I'd be, everybody wants to hang on to the book. No, it does find its way into the aftermarket. So if there's one selling for $1,700, tell me how I do that, because I need my next house payment.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, but I think your forensic genealogy one's like 100 and something. I'll see how I'll do this one first, though.
Well, no, that's not the real price. I mean, that's not the real price. That's just a scalper.
Oh, so it's even more than that.
Unless it's classic with classic with an official autograph.
Yeah, I didn't check.
You can just buy it regular.
Oh, I see. All right. Let's see. Well, there's a case that we talked about last week after you were on, and that was the case of. Well, before we get into that, can you update people on the progress we're making on what we're trying to do here, the raising funds? If you can, you can. I don't know if it's something we can't talk about, or.
Yeah, I mean, for the boy that died in Alabama, the hitchhiker. Mm-hmm. Is that the one you're talking?
Yeah. Well,
let me tell you guys what's going on. I've done. There was a lot of, there's a lot of, backing and forth, and you have to check on. And we had to make a way to get the nonprofit to, accept the funds and pass it on to us, and we've done that. I think Intermountain Forensics has agreed to serve as the go-between. And let's see, also, so that's one thing. The other thing is I talked to the Bibb County coroner several times and emailed him, and we found, here's kind of the backstory, is since the boy died in 1961, there's been several coroners that have handled the case. The case file is old, it's been archived, they're going to bring that out. But the current coroner has not been there so long. The previous one, I think, died of a heart attack last year. So when I contacted the coroner, the contact information was out of date, and I wound up contacting a funeral home. It had the same number or something. And so anyway, I got through all this. I finally got to the coroner, who is C.W. West out there. And he said, he was kind of new at it. He didn't know. But he told me that they had done an exhumation several years ago, and they had sent remains, several bone specimens to UNT in Texas, near Dallas, in Fort Worth, Texas. And so I wrote there, he had to give me permission and stuff like that to do that, and took care of all that. And Crystal Rodriguez down there got back to me today, and she said, we did not get a lot of, maybe none DNA from the bones, and we were not able to generate a CODIS profile. Now, at the time this happened, when they exhumed the boy, everybody was so excited he was going to be identified, and then there was no DNA that came out of it. So everybody kind of got bummed out. So, we're discovering this. Now, there are other ways. Where I'm at is there are other ways to, try again, get DNA out of bone, because getting DNA out of bone sometimes is kind of, up in the air and tricky. You can get nothing from one place on the bone, and then you go an inch away and you get a harvest, lots. So I'm going to go ask a couple of people who are really knowledgeable about this if we can use the same bones. And there are other technologies that use ancient DNA, that use like more tricky ways to trick the DNA out, that I'm going to investigate before I do anything else. That will take, next week or two. Give me a few days. Give me a little bit of slack on that. And then there's a couple of things we can do. We can, of course, try the ancient DNA if we think that's going to work. And the other thing is there's possibility of doing an exhumation again. I just want to say maybe we will or won't go there, because that can be expensive by the time you get the grave diggers and you get the ambulance or the hearse to come. And I've been through some exhumations like that, and it's not hard, but it's just kind of expensive to do that. And there'll be a question on whether we want to go through that expense or not. It's, it could be several $1,000s to do that. So when we get to that point, I'll let everybody know, and we can kind of talk about where we want to go with that.
That sounds good. So, but you're also really good at sort of I don't know what the term is, because I don't do this, but like taking not a complete DNA sequence and finding different segments to pop in and see if you can get a better match or something. Did I say that even close to it?
Yeah, that's close, because sometimes DNA is all chewed up. So, if you're familiar, in GEDmatch and what we do with genetic genealogy, if you want to compare your DNA to me, we're comparing DNA, pieces of DNA to each other. And if yours has spots that look like the Grand Canyon and there's nothing there, then, that could be a problem to what we're doing. So we have a process that's called imputation. And what that is, it kind of patches those holes. And the way it works is kind of like if you're reading a book and the page is ruined and you have words and letters, but there's a bunch of stuff missing because it's been torn up, you can still read it because you know the English language. You can deduce what some of the missing letters are because you know Q, X, and J aren't going to appear together in a word. You can kind of piece together because maybe you know the story a little bit anyway. So you don't have all the information, but you can deduce the rest of it and sort of in your mind bring it back. And so when you do DNA, you do the same thing, is that you have, missing pieces, but you can fill them in because all humans are like 98% the same. So you have models out there, you have another copy of the book, and in other words, to compare that to and patch the holes. So that's called imputation. And another analogy I use for law enforcement is like Wheel of Fortune. You don't have all the puzzle, but you can guess it because you know how to read. So in DNA, chewed up DNA, We don't have all the puzzle, but we can read it because we know DNA.
So you're actually creating a DNA, I'm not sure what the term is, strand or whatever, that doesn't really exist, but you're putting it together in a way that a system can read it, and then you put in enough of the unique parts from the subject and upload it and see if that can lead to relatives, something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that. But the thing is we already just basically know what's missing because all humans are the same within 98%. So you may be missing a piece here, a little piece there, but you know, if you're Caucasian, you know, that piece should be here. If you're African American, okay, it's missing. It's got to be this little tweak. And they have, you know, you already know the story, so you're going to just write it out. So you put those
known parts in there just to be able to upload it to something. Okay.
Yeah. And they not just that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, if I told you Mary had a little lamb, the fleece was white as snow, and I'm missing half the words, you know the other words, right?
Yeah.
There's no.
I see what you're saying. So yeah, you're most likely right because you guys have done it 1,000 times, right? But there's sometimes where it's, you know, or 1,000,000 times.
You may have a tweak here or there. You know, basically 98% of the story is the same.
Interesting. That's cool.
You know, Wheel of Fortune. Go watch it. You know, you have the puzzle and you're going to guess it. But you don't guess. You know what it is. You know, you just fill in the blanks.
I was never good at Jeopardy, but maybe Wheel of Fortune sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's another story. We'll do another podcast.
Yeah, let's see. All right, so then I guess we'll see what the future brings for the 1961 case.
Yeah, in that case, so far, they haven't been able, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we're not able to get any DNA from the bones. So right now, we're kind of stuck with nothing. But the fat lady has not sung yet because there are other ways that you can take some DNA from bones that they haven't tried yet.
Right. There was a question that one of the Freak family members, Andrea, asked earlier. She actually wanted to know if what kind of technologies are sort of on the horizon that are coming up that you're excited about.
Well, that's a good question. There's lots of stuff. As you know, let's see, one of the things, you may not know, but if you're familiar with genetic genealogy at all, as I said, we compare DNA, two people's DNA, and we do it in chunks, segments. And there's, how to say this, we're going to change all that because instead of chunks, we're going to go marker by marker. So if you don't need the chunks anymore, you can work on degraded DNA much better because the chunks are missing in the first place. So let me just say the official words. We're going to use kinship analysis, rather than segmentology. Not Scientology, okay? Segmentology, different thing.
Yeah. Huh. So what does that mean, kinshipology?
Well, what it means is you look like, you compare you and me, all right? And we both have the same marker, a SNP right there, sitting right in our DNA.
Yeah. And
we say to each other, what's the chance that we have that marker compared to everyone else in the population? Maybe like 10% of the people that have that. So that means there's a 10% chance we're related. Then you go to the next marker and you see something else there. And I have the same one. So let's say 5% of the people have that. So now we have 10% times 5% that we're related. And then you do that with enough markers, and pretty soon, if we match, we're really related because it's 10% or 5% or 2% or 50%. You go marker by marker. We had a case of trying to identify a woman who was very badly burned. We got great GEDmatch stuff. And unfortunately, we couldn't find anybody to compare her to because I can't remember the problem, but we maybe we couldn't quite get her on GEDmatch, but we we had enough data, whatever. We had enough of her DNA. So I think we couldn't get it on GEDmatch. Something was wrong. So how were we going to compare her to anybody? Well, the woman had had a medical test many years earlier. She had a pathology slide that had her tissue on it, which had her DNA in it. So that DNA was in terrible shape, and there was almost nothing left. There was a marker, then long space, and another marker, almost nothing left. So what we did is we did that kinship. We said, if this really bad DNA has a marker A there, and she does too, okay, 10% of the people in the world have an A there, so okay, there's a 10% chance this is hers. And then, we went to the next one marker that survived in the pathology slide. And that one, let's say that's 20% of the people have it, and she matched again. The unknown woman who was burned matched that pathology slide.
But now you're like 1 in 50 because you've got the, right?
Right. And then we kept doing that for several hundred SNPs. So the next one was 1 in, 25, 1 in 100. You keep doing that and it builds up. And in the end, we identified her, I think, to like 1 in 10 to the 390th power that it was her.
Wow. That's really cool, actually.
So, it's a very powerful, that's the new thing, one of the new things coming.
So is there going to be like a database where it doesn't even look kind of the way it does now? It's just you put these markers in, boom, here's the set. There's 82 million people with that one. Okay, how about this one and that one and this one? And then, now it's 22 million in this database. Yeah. And then you keep going down until you get this.
Yeah, it's going to be but that's very similar. I said the woman against, this unknown woman against what we thought was herself, right? I mean, the woman was found in her own house. You just couldn't say it was her because it could have been somebody else in the house. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to be able to do other things like first cousins and second cousins, a little bit off the mark there. So, and it's going to be, Verigen bought GEDmatch, and that's kind of their approach, using the more kinship part of it, like SNP by SNP. And so it's going to be available on top of all the regular stuff that genealogists are doing now. So I'm very excited because now I'm learning about this too. So I just want to say I'm excited. Every day today I talked to them, just learned a little bit more about how they're going to present it. And there's going to be also a way to convert the old way to the new way, so you can compare kind of what you're doing now with what it was in the past. So there'll be some changes. Some of the old tools are going to go away. Some new tools are going to be available, but it's going to start more focusing on this kinship stuff. Although, as I said, the old stuff's still there. It's very well used, very well liked. So I think that's also going to stay in place.
That's interesting. So, but in this case, you did it with somebody you had a really good idea. I mean, it's like 99.9%. Yeah. And then it was sort of like a test case where, wow, it actually worked on the side.
Well, we had no other way to do it at that time. There was no other way, to get that woman on GEDmatch. I think the burned woman, if I remember right, there was just some reason we couldn't get her on GEDmatch. Maybe it wasn't good enough. I don't know. But it had, reasonable amount of DNA for us to work with. And I think what happened was this pathology slide came about. We found it, or somebody knew about it. And that just gave us that opportunity. There was no other way.
Okay. Somebody just popped in and says, how does one get to train in forensic genealogy?
No, I get that question, and I don't know because I never have.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'd say this. This is the advice I really give to lots of people is to go do adoption searches and do some really tough ones. Do a lot of them. And even some of the law enforcement people say, I've been asked by the people in Australia, some law enforcement guys, for training, but they don't have a lot of casework in Australia yet, and there's all kind of permissions they have to get. So I said, well, why don't we find an adoptee and pretend it's a Jane Doe or a John Doe, and I won't tell you anything. I'll tell you like where they were found, okay, where they live now, for example. and we'll just use that instead. Now, once you get to be able to do that, and you're really good at adoption searches, you qualify. People will start, like the companies that do this, including mine, will consider you for the team. You get into the hopper. People will start thinking about you. But there's one more layer that you have to consider, and that is when you do an adoption search. It's very common to reach out to matches and say, this is your second cousin. Do you know if you have a second cousin that was adopted? Or, did you have family members living in Dallas? You can ask questions, and it's very common to reach out or to do target testing, where you see a cousin and you reach out to them and you say, I don't know if the connection is mom or dad, but would you mind getting your mom tested for us so we can see if she's a match or whether it's on your dad's side? So you do that when you do adoption searches, but when you work for us, that's off the table. You have to work in silent mode. You are not allowed to reach out. I would say if it's a very distant relative and you're doing a John and Jane Doe, you can do that. But as a rule, we don't reach out. Now, some cases that we've been working on for quite some time, we do. We talk to the agency and we ask them to reach out. In one case, they allowed us to reach out, but you have to be very calculated and cautious, and don't just take it for granted. You really are in stealth mode, and you really can't talk to you can talk to your other teammates, but you can't really go public or reach out.
I would imagine the people who probably are the best, when you get to the forensic genealogists, are people who are just really interested in looking into genealogy of their own family, and then they really got really investigatory. They got really good at it, and then they know how to do it, and then maybe they tried something like what you're saying, but that's just their passion, right?
Right.
And then boom, it'd be, if you're not interested and you get bored easily and you get discouraged, it's like a really hard puzzle sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quite easy.
You take a break. I mean, we all take a break. We have those cases that are driving us nuts, that are, that are 2 years old, and we're still at it, but we're not giving up. It's just, like anything you do, you get tired, you take a break, you come back.
Yeah. I think you answered it last time, but Gwendolyn asked that last question, and Zozo asked how you got started in it, but I thought you answered that.
I've answered it many times.
Right.
And the answer, it started in what? I've had like 3 careers already.
In the genealogy world, I guess.
Okay, first of all, how did I get started in genealogy? Let's do that one. I never did. I was born this way. I never woke up and said, hey, genealogy's fun. I think I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
No, I was born this way because I come from New Orleans, and I knew, as I've told many times, I knew sometimes my all 4 grandparents and sometimes their aunts and uncles. So, coming from a family and living in a city like New Orleans, I mean, I grew up around living history. So there was never a moment in my life I was never interested. I was never part of that. I am my history. So it's not anything new for me. It was nothing new for me to sit with my grandma and ask her who her grandparents were. She knew, she told me. So I never started that. I was always that. So as far as forensic genealogy, I would say I got interested when I wrote the book. 2005, I was a rocket scientist and trying to control a company that was not doing very well, and that was my therapy.
But you were a rocket scientist, right?
But yes, I was.
I mean, see,
I was
look at everybody. When she was saying, when people actually say, oh, she's not a rocket scientist or anything. Well, in this case, she was. So.
Yes, I was the head of the team for a while that designed the first laser on the space shuttle. I bet you didn't know that.
No, did not know that.
And I, worked on a nuclear accelerator to do my thesis, my PhD thesis, for 4 years. I ran a nuclear accelerator. I'm getting chills. Was that really me? I'm thinking,
Yeah.
No, it was somebody else. No, it was me. Oh my God. So
I don't think anybody's
that.
shocked, actually.
I never, I want to make it clear, however, I never really worked officially on a rocket. Okay. I didn't work on rockets. But when you say rocket scientist, I think that takes it all into account.
Space
I did work on
stuff.
Yeah, space stuff. And,
All right. Okay. Hey, let's remember last week in here after you were on, we talked about the buckskin doe, Marcia King.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about that one? Because we barely talked about it for a minute on the phone, but I didn't want you to go through the whole thing and then you could.
Yeah. I'll be glad to tell you the backstory on a lot of this because, so often you see in the news another, solve or some other thing you see in the news and everybody gets excited, but people don't often get a chance to hear the backstory. Here's the backstory. Margaret Press and I were forming the DNA Doe project. We spent some time. We were trying to figure out how to do the lab work, how to do bioinformatics, who to talk to, where to go. We were feeling our way in the dark. And I went to the AAFS meeting in, I think it was 2017. It was in the early 2017 in New Orleans. That is correct. My father died a few days earlier in New Orleans. So I was there for both occasions. And I went, I met Beth Murray, who was a NamUs case manager at the meeting. I had given a talk on the Lori Ruff case where I used 23andMe and autosomal SNP testing to identify her. And Beth was in the audience and she said, "Oh, that's interesting. I'm a NamUs case manager. I wonder if we can do John and Jane Does with that." So I kind of snagged Beth right before she left and kind of had this 5-minute kamikaze meeting in the lobby. And off she went and we stayed in touch. So she wound up asking us if we'd do Buckskin Girl. And this was a woman found, I think, 1981 outside of Dayton, Ohio, in a town near Troy, named Troy. And the girl was in her 20s. She had red hair. People had actually spoken to her around town, but nobody knew who she was. And she was found dead out in the field somewhere in a remote area in a long country road. And she was barefoot, but her feet were not dirty. So they knew it was a body dump more than anything. And she wore a jacket called a buckskin jacket. So that's how she got her name. And all along, people were wondering who this girl was because, you'd think somebody like that you would be able to identify. So Beth asked us if we could do that. And we said, okay, we now understand nobody had ever done any of this before. This was pre-Golden State Killer. So we said, okay, we'll try it. And Beth thought she'd have to do an exhumation, but she didn't. She had, her DNA they had was 37 years old. It had not been refrigerated. And it had been doped with heparin, which is anticoagulant. So we thought, no way in hell that this is going to produce DNA. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're not stupid, this kind of stuff. So we, did a whole genome sequencing. We massaged it. We made a GEDmatch kit out of it. Yes, we did. We uploaded it to GEDmatch, beautiful data, and we came up with a first cousin once removed. We couldn't believe our eyes. The data takes about a day to get on a GEDmatch, but you can kind of monitor it as you go along. So we're monitoring, waiting for it to stop, and up pops a first cousin once removed. My slogan in life is, you tell me your first cousin and your first cousin once removed, and I'm going to find out who you are. So it was about, 11 o'clock at night. I'm a night owl. I'm just hanging out on Facebook, hearing the chatter, seeing what the volunteers are doing. And this first cousin once removed comes up, and it's like, Margaret, we gotta start working. This is 11 o'clock at night. So Margaret and I stayed up all night, and we pretty much we immediately solved it. We followed the yellow brick road. We followed the first cousin once removed up the tree, down the tree, and we determined her name was Marcia King. That took us 3 or 4 hours. And in the course of the night, one of the volunteers or two would pop their head up on Facebook every now and then saying, "How you guys doing? Can I help you?" But, and they did some groundwork before this happened. So we had a little bit of help there, and we just powered through it. And what was interesting was that we got to her father, John Sosaman, and he had posted a family tree, which had been cloned, but he posted a family tree where he named all his children. And we're at the point, all we got to do is find which child he feels is the right one. So he had 6 children. We found 5 on Facebook, but we couldn't find the 6th one. And when we went to Ancestry, he had posted his genealogy. We use a lot of Ancestry genealogy. And we looked at he said 5 of those kids were alive because they weren't held prior. The 6th one was named Marcia Sosaman, and it said she was born in 1959 in Biloxi. And at that point, Margaret said, on the other side of the phone, I have chills going down my back. I said, what's the matter? You going through menopause or something? What's going on? I had 2 little old ladies on the phone talking about having chills. And, she said, no. And when we looked, it said born 1959 in Biloxi, died, unknown, assumed dead. And her father posted that on his Ancestry tree. I mean, it was almost eerie. It's like a note in a genealogy bottle, that we picked up on the beach, and it said, my daughter is disappeared. I think she's dead. And here we are trying to find out which one of his children could be Jane Doe. So this was probably, I think, like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock, and it took us an hour or 2. We had to confirm. Margaret said, hey, maybe there's another one. We got to make sure it's her. And I'm like, no, we got it. No. So it was about 6 o'clock out in Ohio where Beth is, and that's on East Coast time. And then it took us another hour to argue over whether we were going to call her or whether we were going to wait and call her. But then by the time the argument was over, it was 7:30. And we called her because we figured she's up and she's on the way to work. And then the rest is history. That was Marcia King. I would like to make a PS to the story. Once we told Beth Murray, who told Steve Lord about, our discovery, realized this didn't happen. This is before Golden State Killer. So Beth Murray's hair is on fire at this point. And she's, Steve Lord, who's the sheriff of Miami County, called Marcia's mother in Little Rock. And the mother had not changed her phone number or moved for 37 years, hoping her daughter would come back. And she did, but not the way she was hoping. But now she has her answers.
Well, that's just crazy. It's so amazing to actually get the answers for somebody. What was the DNA source that you guys used?
The blood, the heparin, the bad
right.
blood. We thought it was bad blood, but it wasn't.
That's what you said. Yeah. That's the part. I knew that was the part that was interesting, but I was fiddling around trying to get the pictures on the screen, and I missed that part.
Well, go ahead. You see, you missed it. Now you're going to have to.
Okay, now do the whole thing again. Let's start over again. Okay, so you
no, no, you're going to have to watch the video now.
Oh crap! I had to watch my own show again. Hey, listen, you guys can call in if you want, but you have to be a channel member. I put it in the community section, the phone number, and you'll be in a room. Waiting room, and when I have time, I'll bring you in there. Okay. All right. Now somebody. Okay,
is that what you wanted to know? Is that a good story? Is that the good case? The good.
Then you guys think that was, look at everybody's in there. I don't know if you can see their comments.
I don't want people to say, "Oh my God, she's just carrying on." Well, she shut up and move on to something else. Don't let that happen. Just go like that, and I'll move on.
Yeah. But, hey. No, I'm not gonna. I won't be doing that. It's actually fun listening to you. Okay, there's another case that somebody wanted to ask about, and that was, I didn't even realize. I thought the guy looked just like Art Bell. Do you remember Art Bell, the guy that did the late?
I do, but I never saw what he looked like.
Oh God, he's a clone of the Joseph Newton Chandler, which probably really isn't his name. It's sort of a perplexing story because he gets identified back as being that person, but he isn't that person.
Correct. This guy was living under an assumed name. His name was Joseph Newton Chandler III. This is going to be bizarre. Okay, if you don't know this story, prepare to be bizarred out crazy. In the next few seconds here. Yeah. He died in Cleveland in 2002. He committed suicide. He shot himself. And he was like a real quiet guy, never went out to eat. That's the only reason he went out. He came, lived in a very sparse apartment, never really talked to anybody. He worked as an electronics draftsman, sort of a permanent temporary for an engineering company outside of Cleveland. And so he shot himself. He didn't have any friends, and the neighbors kind of smelled something funny. And so they went in, and of course he was dead, and they cleaned him up. I've seen some crime scenes in my day. Let me tell you, they cleaned it up. And so they said, okay, we'll just bury him, go on with our lives. But they couldn't, because they found that he had a bank account of $82,000. So they didn't know what, they had to go find his family, right, to find out, give him the money. Well, that's when the trouble started, because Joseph Newton Chandler III was not the man who committed suicide in Cleveland. Actually, the real Joseph Newton Chandler III was a 9-year-old boy who died in a car accident outside of Dallas in 1945. So, the U.S. Marshal of Northern Ohio, obviously needed to figure out who this guy was, and they managed to trace him back to 1978 in Rapid City, South Dakota. And apparently he had walked into a Social Security office and said, hey, I lost my Social Security card, can you give me a duplicate? And, South Dakota, I mean, who's going to care what's going on in South Dakota? And he did that. And he apparently had the birth certificate of this boy. Boy was born in Buffalo, New York. His mother was born in Pennsylvania. His father was born, I think, in Oklahoma, and he died in Texas. So, nobody's going to know who he is, and it's going to be one of these people that doesn't. He died with his mother and father, so the whole family was wiped out. It's not like he's going to run into a brother or anything like that. So he walked in, assumed the identity, had the birth certificate, asked their Social Security copy of the Social Security card, and he assumed his identity. It was that easy. So from 1978 to 2002, he lived under that name secretly, and nobody knew anything else. And then he died, and the whole thing came apart, and it became a big mystery.
Yeah, but I mean, so you looked him up your way, genealogy-wise, and it turns out he had a different last name that you believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the articles. Are you able to say the name?
Yeah, I can tell everything because it's over. It's really an interesting. What happened? The marshal contacted me again through the Laurie Ruff case. He heard about that and he found out about me, and he said, I was working with Y-DNA at the time, and Y-DNA is kind of the male line of the family. So you give me Y profile, so to speak, and I can compare that to the genetic genealogy Y DNA profiles. And if I find a match, it means I've found a possible last name for Mr. X. Genealogists do this every day. I had my brother tested to see if we could match other Fitzpatricks to expand our family tree. So, male adoptees do this all the time to try and find their biological father's last name. And that's essentially what we were doing. So I came up with the name Nicholas. And there's a lot of Nicholases out there that didn't really help. This Nicholas, that the genealogist that we matched to, it was very nice. He gave us his genealogy. He was descended from a colonial Virginia family that, like, the guy came in 1720, and his son was the first treasurer of the colony of Virginia. And then his grandson was like the first president of the University of Louisville. I mean, a very prominent family, but there was only one guy that took the DNA test. So we had to make sure that he wasn't adopted, or, his grandpa wasn't adopted. So over time, we had a few more Nikolai, that's the plural of Nicholas, take, tests, or they wandered into the story accidentally, and that was right. It was all Nicholas. In the end, we had 3 or 4 Nicholas matches to this Mr. X. Now, was his name Nicholas? Well, we thought so, but we couldn't prove it because we don't know who he is. And that Nicholas family is so large since the 1720s. You have tens of thousands of descendants, and nobody seemed to know who he was or recognize him. Even the David Nicholas, the genealogist, even like his old great aunts and everything, didn't know who the guy was. So it kind of went south from there for a while. And then we picked up, this is one of the cases with Buckskin Girl that we picked up, Margaret and I. And, beginner's luck, you would know that this DNA from this man, he had been dead since 2002. And his DNA had been, the DNA had been obtained from a biopsy sample. The man, he had colon cancer, and he had had a biopsy, so that tissue was preserved. He himself had been cremated, so there was no DNA except from this tissue sample. And it had been embedded in paraffin for 14 years by the time they took it out to do CODIS and stuff like that.
And this is the guy named Joseph Newton Chandler.
Joseph Newton Chandler, that was not his name. We thought it was Nicholas.
Is that your dog?
And so we got a sample of his DNA, which was almost none left, and we did the genealogy on it. And let's say this, there was a little bit more to the story here, but the DNA was very degraded. We did a lot of imputation. We did a little bit of ballet dancing to make it better. And what was interesting in this is that we had degraded DNA, and we did GEDmatch, we put it up, we did the genealogy. But realize again, this had never been done. Nobody had any experience. And here, our first case, we have chewed up DNA. That's chewed up. It's only like 10% of the whole genome was left. 90% were holes in this genome. So you get it, that we just have scraps, and we get it up on GEDmatch, and we're saying, hey, do we trust this? What happens if here's his genome, and you're comparing it to mine, and his goes into the Grand Canyon? It doesn't mean anything, So what I did was I had been tested with 23andMe, and my friend Andy had been tested in 23andMe. So what I did is I opened Mr. X's GEDmatch kit. It's just a list of SNPs. And I opened mine. And side by side, his was missing 90% of the markers. You follow that. Mine was fine, because here I am.
Yeah.
So I wrote some software, and every time I saw something was missing in his DNA, I took it out of mine. So I artificially degraded my own DNA to match his. So I only had 10% of my DNA left, my data left, if you're following that. So I made a GEDmatch kit out of that. I put it on GEDmatch, and I compared me regular to me degraded to see if it made sense. And I did that with Andy, where Mr. X was missing a marker. I took it out of Andy's, and I made a GEDmatch kit, degraded GEDmatch kit for Andy, and threw it up there. And I found it was perfect match still. Didn't matter that I only had 10% left of my DNA. My top 20 matches were the same. It didn't matter if I was, had this really ratty DNA or my real DNA. It was the same. And with Andy's, I stopped counting with how many matches he had that were the same. His DNA was so it didn't matter that 90% of it was missing. I degraded my own DNA to make sure that what we were looking for with Mr. X, we could believe it, and it worked.
So that's almost exactly what you were describing about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's in reverse, because you asked me, if you have degraded DNA, what do you do to repair it? And I told you that. Yeah. In this case, this was way in the beginning. Yeah. We had DNA. We didn't know how to repair it. We just didn't know whether to believe what we.
It was like data. Testing. That became what you learned to be able to do what you described.
Right. So at first you told me, what do you do with degraded DNA? I said, we repair it. In this case, we had me. I had fine DNA, and I made it ratty. I just, tore it up to see if it would work, and it did. We got lucky.
Well, when you took the 90% out of yours, what did you fill it back in with? Do you have nothing?
No, okay. I just 10% left, and I did whatever. I got it on GEDmatch. For some reason, I got it on GEDmatch, and I could compare me to me, because on GEDmatch you compare. I had my normal stuff, and I had my weird stuff. It was the same.
Did you only remove the part that was just generic to almost everybody? So you don't.
I just removed whatever got chewed up. DNA just gets chewed up. The heat, humidity, temperature, age, the chemicals in the paraffin just chew DNA up.
So the thing is okay. So his real name is Robert Ivan Nichols.
Nichols.
So he was identified eventually, even though
Yeah, no, we did. And we knew his name was kind of Nicholas, right? We had an idea because that's what I found earlier. And when we were doing the genealogy, we found the Nicholas family. We had a connection to a Mr. Nichols. We had Nichols here and Nichols there, a couple of them, no Nicholases. So when we're doing the genealogy, there's no reason for us to follow any of it. We're just trying to figure out whether this even works because this DNA is so ratty. And then one day we had a connection to Mr. Nichols, and along came a connection to his wife, Mrs. Nichols. So all of their 4 sons, I think there were 4 sons, qualified for Mr. X because we had a connection to both his mom and his dad. So we looked at those sons and we could account for 3 of them, but we couldn't account for the 4th.
That's amazing.
That was Mr. Robert Ivan Nichols, aka Joseph Chandler.
So then they were able to maybe disperse the $82,000.
That would have been nice, but that's like 2002. Actually, the money was given to his only friend, who was Mike, and I don't think they just gave Mike a slug of money. I think they gave him some money for helping, do whatever.
But was Mike friends with the other guy? I mean, his other name?
Yeah, well, Mike was the only guy. Mr. Chandler had really no friends. But Mike knew that. Mike worked with him, and so talked to him every now and then. And once in a while, he would go out to eat with Mike. Not often, but Mike said it was always really awkward. They didn't know what to talk about. But Mike was really the only person that would have qualified for being an acquaintance or somebody that knew a little bit more about him.
Now, earlier you said the plural of Nicholas is Nikolai.
Yeah.
But what if your name is Nikola, like Nikola Tesla? What would plural be of Nikola?
I think Nicholas. So maybe it's complicated, maybe.
Well, you had Nicholas, and then that's Nikolai, but now there's a Nikola already.
Yeah.
So then it makes.
Yeah, and if your name is Nikolai, maybe there's Russians named Nikolai, and then that Nikolai's, something like that.
Something we'll have to figure out.
What do you do, Hughes, when you say there are Hugheses. 3 people in my family here? You say the Hugheses?
I think so. I haven't really. I don't think we say Hughes-I.
Yeah, maybe you say Hughes.
Maybe I should have that. Like, take a picture of my
Huey. That's
let me think.
Yeah, let's get away from all the technology because that's no fun. People might be out there scratching their head saying, why did I sign into a physics class tonight? I don't want that. It's Friday night.
They want to know this stuff.
Okay, I'm open. Hey, I'll talk about it all night. I love to explain it. I'm good at doing it really simply.
Let's talk about this guy for a little bit more because I read the Wikipedia version just because it was pretty good breakdown of everything.
Yeah.
And it was talking about some of the theories. Like there was actually people that thought maybe he is the Zodiac killer.
That is correct. So that's what delayed our announcement because we actually identified him 6 weeks before the Golden State Killer. So the marshal, contacted the San Francisco people and said, hey, we got a live one for you. And he sent all the information out, but that's all you can do. They're pretty tight-lipped about the Zodiac. I don't know what's going on with that. Nobody really knows if they have DNA from the guy. I don't know, maybe DNA on the envelopes he licked or something like that. So, they're all very secretive and tight with that information. So we sent it out. See, the problem is that the Zodiac was operating in the San Francisco area in the 1970s and mid-1970s. And Mr. Robert Nichols went off the grid, I think, about 1966. He was in, I think, Santa Clara County, California. I think that's right. He was in that area. He was working as an engineering draftsman. Who would have thought? And his name, Robert Ivan Nichols, or Robert Nichols, is so common that once he we couldn't find him. That was the last contact he had with his family in '66. The marshal was able to get his just basic Social Security records, his earnings, not any details, but just the earnings. And he evidently continued to work. You know, it was a smooth increase. You know how over your lifetime you will earn more money normally. So you could see he was continuing to work. And then in 1976, it went, yeah. And in 1977, there was no money. There was nothing recorded for him by the Social Security Administration. And then 1978, here he is as Mr. Chandler. So during that time, that's when the Zodiac was operating in that area. So, and he looks kind of like him.
He does look like him. It's crazy.
We thought he might be him, but we don't know. We never got an answer to that.
Here, let me show I'll show them the like a picture. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'll move this. Let me see. Yes, I want to see the picture. So, he does kind of look like him.
His picture looks incredibly
driver's license.
Yeah, he looks almost exactly like the drawing. Was his face mangled where that was an incredible drawing?
I don't know if you have the what is it, the pictures of Zodiac. Somebody,
yeah, I got Zodiac right here. See, look at,
I'm sure you do.
You know, there's a whole bunch of sketches of him, things like that.
Yeah, well, that could be him. You know,
yeah, he's got the glasses.
That's within plus or minus. It could have been, and you're looking at a driver's license picture of 30 years later.
One thing I think is funny is when people do a sketch of somebody and then they do an age progression on a sketch.
Of the sketch.
It's like, you know how inaccurate that probably is at this point?
Yeah. You know, I want to say something, too, about both of these cases. This is really, I wish I could show you these pictures, but Joseph Chandler, there was almost no pictures of him during his lifetime. He never went out. He never went to parties. You know, that was his driver's license picture. But there was one other picture, and that he was at a Halloween costume party. And he was wearing a fedora. He was dressed as a gangster with a white tie, black shirt, pinstripe suit, and a fedora. And with sort of a scraggly beard, you know, 5 o'clock shadow with glasses. All right. And it's one of two pictures we had. So now we know who he is. We know his whole family. Of course, we researched his family in the course of identifying him. The marshal, gave it. Okay. So in doing that, we go to Facebook, and on Facebook, I can't, bring in other family members here, but I will tell you, there's a picture of 3 of his great-granddaughters who never met him. The picture was taken probably 2010, and it shows 3 great-granddaughters that are within, I'd say, between 10 and 13 years old. One is dressed as like a fairy godmother. One is dressed as something else because it's a Halloween party. And the other great-granddaughter is dressed in a pinstripe suit with a white tie, a fedora, and she's got 5 o'clock shadow with glasses. She's dressed exactly like her great-grandfather was dressed in the late 90s for that costume party. And they never met. She didn't even know anything about him. I mean, they didn't even know he disappeared.
So she was at the same... I heard.
And I'm saying that it's amazing what you inherit without knowing it.
Oh yeah. Well, look at here's I was reading that he was at that party, but he didn't do anything. Like he just stood around.
Yeah, of course.
That's
true. That was what he did. But he was there and he was wearing that outfit.
I mean, it seems interesting that he would spend all that time dressing up as a gangster, and then he goes there and just stands in a corner or something.
Yeah. Well, we thought, he might have been a gangster. It might have been he was laughing at everybody saying, hey, they think I'm dressed up as a gangster. Boy, what a nice outfit.
How did you get those pictures again? I mean,
well, the Facebook came from Facebook, the great-granddaughters. Once we knew the family,
So
right?
They just happened to...
And then the Halloween party came from the marshal.
That's interesting. Let me see. I got a whole bunch of...
And I want to say Buckskin Girl, we did the same thing. Of course, we know her whole family. She has like a half-niece. Her father got married twice, so she's got half brothers and sisters. A half-niece that could be photo-identical to her. And of course, the half-niece is probably, was born 2010.
Did you ever figure
down.
out why somebody didn't recognize her or anything like that? That's the
No,
part that's always
no.
strange when you got somebody that's so unique like that.
Yeah,
And
I
then
know.
and the drawings weren't even that bad, right? I mean,
Yeah, they had pictures of her. They had redone her artist reconstruction a few years ago based on her autopsy photos. They were fine. They looked just like her.
yeah, they
Her
were
mother
great.
gave us
Yeah.
pictures. It was. I can show you some pictures if you want. But the child, the granddaughter, I mean the half niece, photo identical with the freckles, the red hair, the pigtails with the rubber bands, with the blue rubber bands.
Was she already doing that anyways? I think that's so bizarre how.
She never met her. She never knew
Yeah.
anything. She probably never.
But you've heard of stories with like identical twins that are separated and then
Mm-hmm.
they end up
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of the similar thing. Even though this isn't an identical twin, but they marry people with the same names, and all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's really weird.
Right. Use the same toothpaste. Name the
Yeah.
kids the same name, and it's like,
Yeah, like that's
come
actually
on.
that's actually kind of freaky, really, because
Yeah,
it
I
shouldn't
know.
be that way. That means you would, if that's a real phenomenon that actually seems to happen, that means you sort
Yeah.
of, part of your genetics is a predetermined behavior or something. It's weird.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's 100%, but
Yeah.
it does influence. It does, it's a great influence on what you do.
Yeah, I got one that just randomly I just thought of. Explain to us what a chimera is, because I guess they exist.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
Those are people with two DNAs in their bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, ooh.
Good to be a criminal if you're a chimera, right?
In fact, I was going to say my favorite one is this serial killer in Russia. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, and he was a chimera, and he got away with murder for 10 years
Oh
because
wow.
the DNA at the scene of the crime, the semen left, wasn't anything like the DNA that they took from him, the blood at the police station.
Oh,
And
man.
so they said it can't be him. They kept saying it's got to be him. No, it can't be him. The DNA doesn't match, but it has to be him. So for some reason, I forgot what happened. They maybe took saliva the next time or something matched, and it turned out he had two DNAs in his body.
Wow. Did he know that?
No, he
oh
just-
God. He was like, "You got me." Holy.
Yeah,
what
it's
do you
like-
mean that's not mine? That's what he was saying, right? What do you mean
Yeah.
that's not my semen? He was thinking.
Yeah,
You know, and then
they
he-
didn't catch me. So
God, he must have just been absolutely.
well,
floored.
in those days, this was in the 80s, probably the 90s. He didn't know a lot about DNA. He didn't know. I mean, this was the police learning about DNA and knowing that if it
Yeah.
didn't match, it wasn't him, but it was.
But nowadays, if that same guy was now and he was exonerated, then he said, "Well, we tested the DNA in the semen, and we tested you, and they're completely two different people." He'd
Yeah,
probably,
well, it depends because it could come out looking like a mixture. And they tried that once. They tried to trick the DNA analyst by sending in a chimera in, and seeing if the DNA analyst would say, "Look, it's a mixture. I can't deal with it."
God, that's
And
crazy.
there was an article in the New York Times. There was a guy that gave a lecture talk at one of the big DNA conferences called Issue, and he had just had a bone marrow transplant, and they were tracking, what DNA was in his body. Whether it was the new DNA from the bone marrow transplant or the old one. And if I remember right, his saliva, his DNA kept coming and going. It would come back, and then it disappeared a certain amount.
That's just weird. So how does it happen?
Well, they think that it's because somebody's conceived as a twin,
Mhm.
and the twins merge into one person. One twin is absorbed.
Oh,
'Cause
like
there's,
so for fraternal twins that absorb, so almost the exact opposite of identical twins. It's one, and then they split off. Except those are
Yeah.
two identical.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they think it happens with identical twins, but you'll never know.
Oh God, that's
Right?
creepy.
So some people, occasionally somebody's born with this lump or something, and they find out it's the twin that would have been born, stuff like that. But it's the merger of these.
It must be like right away, almost like they're just.
I would say there's not a big window for that, but it must happen. And that there was a woman recently. This is cool. She she had welfare for her children, and they didn't believe her, so she took a DNA test to prove it, and her children didn't match her. So she was going to be, accused of welfare fraud. She kept saying, look, they're all my children. This is my husband, right? So it turned out she was pregnant. And when she went to the hospital, they had the police with her in the delivery room and everything. She would deliver the child. They were right there. They witnessed it, and the DNA in the baby did not match her.
Oh, man.
And they were going, yeah, that's what they said. Oh, man. She was a chimera, and she had 2 DNAs in her body, and she was passing the other DNA of her. Oh, wait, can I tell you my favorite story?
Yeah.
Oh,
you can
keep
on going. Everyone's going to love the chimera stuff.
No, this is my favorite story. This couple went to a fertility clinic to conceive a child. So they conceived this beautiful child, looked great, nothing wrong, had the baby tested, everything's fine. Except there's one thing very strange about the baby, and that is at the first test they did, the baby did not share any DNA with the father. The couple went back to the fertility clinic with their attorney and tried to explain how upset they were. Well, they did another test, and they found out that the baby shared 25% of its DNA with the dad, the second test. And the only way they could figure out this worked was that the dad was a chimera, and that he was conceived as a twin, and that he absorbed his fraternal twin, and that the sperm that went into fertilizing that egg to make that baby was his brother's DNA, so that he was really the uncle of the baby that he had conceived with his wife through the fertility clinic.
See, I actually understood that. That's the
Well,
that's the scary part.
I'm worried about you. I'm worried about you.
That's the scary part. I mean, just the whole concept of chimera is absolutely crazy. They don't feel any differently than anybody else, right?
Not that I know of. I mean, it's not like they get headaches on Thursdays,
Well, I wonder, does it ever happen? Has there ever been a chimera that turns out to be a conjoined twin? Wouldn't that be weird? They're so rare that the odds are probably so low, right?
Yeah, because conjoined twins, I mean, they're super rare.
Right. So, but just imagine because you could literally have 2 completely different looking people on a conjoined, what would have been a chimera, but I don't know how to say it. Let's say they merged a little bit later, and then they sort of developed. I don't know if that would ever.
Yeah, well, you know what? It'd be a little bit tough because
the
usually those conjoined twins are identical twins, right?
Yeah, and they just
that you're dealing with chimeras, you can't really detect the identical twin part of the chimera, right? Chimerism, because if it's an identical twin and they merge, you're never going to see it. It's got to be fraternal when they merge, and then you can start telling. And I don't know if that really happens with conjoined twins. If 2 twins are floating around in there and they say, hey, let's get one, and they get stuck.
And I think that there would be rejection issues somehow, too, because they wouldn't be.
Right. I think the conjoined twins start like this, and they start separating, and they never let go. Whereas this is like 2 that are separate, and they kind of on top of, So I think it's the opposite direction.
I'd like to just physically see. I mean, it would be cool is if somebody intentionally started off making a chimera, but then just to see what the hell happened. Nobody even knows how to do it artificially, right?
No, I mean, and why would you want to mess with it? Why would you
just like with mice,
Well, you do create chimeras when you give bone marrow transplants.
No, I've heard somebody say that somehow. Then your DNA can be. That's another crime story, then, right?
Yeah, it is, and that was, like I said, the guy with the bone marrow transplant. They did a study on him. They took his DNA from his lips, his mouth, his semen, his hair, his blood, and they monitored how much of him kept coming back. I mean, you can't get rid of all your DNA, right? So, over time, sometimes more of his DNA would be there. I think the DNA in his hair never changed.
So why does it happen? Why does it happen during a bone marrow transplant and not maybe a blood transfusion?
Because I think the blood kind of gets flushed out and redoes itself, whereas the bone marrow is the source of your DNA in your body. It's like the factory. to my understanding. So, you really, you probably never get rid of entirely all your DNA. It's still in there. So you just replace it with somebody else's bone marrow, which carries their DNA. So,
God, it just seems like there's so many weird sort of ramifications. So when you get bone marrow transplants, I mean, does some of the, since you're changing your DNA, can it alter your look in some way?
Oh, that's interesting. I really don't know. I think that, this is the edge of what I understand, that you're replacing stem cells and stuff. So that's a good question. How come your hair doesn't turn blonde or something? You must have, a certain amount of DNA of your own otherwise kind of in your body, and it's never entirely replaced. I don't know. I would say your blood type would change.
Maybe there's some things that, once it's set, right? And then even putting extra DNA in your body isn't going to change.
I think, I think what it probably is that part of your body that renews itself quickly, like your blood, your bone marrow, your saliva, that kind of thing. That probably is more volatile, and you change that out. Whereas, like my skin cells that divide and stuff, they're still me. There's so many of them that you're never going to change all of that.
That's weird, because in the future we're going to probably develop technology where you can be almost like an amphibian, where you lose an arm and it grows back. Now, what if you just had a bone marrow transplant? In that instance, that arm might come back a little bit with like the other person, right?
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Another sci-fi story. You have a lot of listeners. Hey, listeners, here's your idea for your New York Times bestseller, by the way.
But you got to admit, that is pretty crazy, right? Some of that stuff.
I tell you, there's probably all kinds of, like the guy in the fertility clinic being his own uncle of his baby. You're going to see a lot of weird stuff, I bet.
I don't think, like if you were sitting in a bar and telling that story, nobody would believe it.
Yeah, normally you have DNA and something goes wrong and the child dies, or there's a mutation, you get a disease, or you have diabetes, so you have some kind of other deal going on. You have Down syndrome or something. If the organism dies or is very affected. These ones with a chimera, that's just benign. It just happens and you survive and you don't even know it.
Yeah, it seems so weird to me that you could merge two completely different DNA beginnings, I guess, however you want to say it, and then but you don't notice it at all. It just seems bizarre to me.
It is another one I know about, a pair of twins up in British Columbia, and they were identical twins, right? They tested, what was it? Wow. They tested the DNA in their skin or something, and they were identical, no problem. And one of them, when they were about 7 or 8 years old, one of them developed cystic fibrosis, and it's a genetic disease, and the other one didn't. So what was going on, right? They didn't know. So, okay.
I was already thinking this ahead of you when you were.
One of the twins. The way you test for cystic fibrosis is you take like the salt from your skin. You see it's got like a lot of copper chloride in your skin. That's the diagnosis. And when they did that, they snagged some skin cells. Oh, I know what it was. They had done blood tests and they were identical twins. So when they scraped the skin, they got some skin cells from the sick child and the well child. They compared the DNA from the skin and they found out they were not identical. So what they figured out was when the children were conceived, they were next to one another in the womb. And the sick child commandeered the blood supply of the healthy child. And so when they were born, one child was fine. She was exactly what you thought. But the other child was a chimera because she was actually a fraternal twin that had taken over the blood supply, her own blood supply from her healthy sister. So she had two DNAs.
Right. That's what I knew. I knew you were going there. But the weird part is that means that there was going to be, had that not occurred, there would have been triplets, but two would have been identical, and there would have been one just fraternal twin, right?
No, there'd be two kids. There'd just be fraternal twins.
Yeah, but there's but the third, the chimera one, had that not been squished, because you said that Let's see.
No, there was only two. No.
Okay,
two.
okay.
Here, they're two, and they're fraternal. No problem.
Okay.
This one's sick. This one's well.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They were
The sick
fraternal.
one
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
were, they were snuggled
Okay.
up against each other,
Yeah.
and this one says, "Hey, give me some blood."
I get what you're saying. They thought they were identical because some tests
Yeah.
would show that. But
Yeah,
they
the
actually
blood
were
was the
fraternal.
same.
Yeah.
The blood test showed them, okay, they're identical twins. What
Okay,
else is
well,
new?
how about that?
Oh, wait a minute.
That scenario that I just said will happen at some point, where you'll have two identical twins,
Yeah.
and then it'll be the same scenario where if you had had two fraternal twins. However, sometimes one of those fraternal twins will separate. But what if at that time one of if it was quick enough that one of the identical merged with the fraternal twin, then you'd have literally
got it.
which is kind of similar.
So they're like half identical, half fraternal, depending on what you look at. Yeah.
But for just a brief moment, they were identical, and then boom, the one.
Yeah,
but it would end up being similar, actually, to what you just said.
Yeah. So you never. I mean, we're going to come across all these weird DNA stories sooner or later. As we know more.
Yeah, well,
and
the more people you get out there, and some of these things have happened. They just haven't. There's no reason to test somebody's DNA most of the time.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm going to tell you another kind of secret, a kind of trick is that there's no such thing as identical twins. No such thing as identical twins. In fact, I didn't get to read it. I just saw an email about some article that came out about that. But I'm telling you the truth, there is no such thing as identical twins. Because once here's the egg and it divides, right? Once it's divided, they each have their own history. This one will have a few mutations, this one doesn't have, and repair it, not repair it. So once they get past that, they're not identical anymore. That's very hard to tell them apart.
Well, genetically, you can take a kidney transplant and need no medication, though.
No, I know that part.
Yeah.
I mean, because the differences are so very minimal, but there are differences. So the word identical implies, absolute, identical. But it's like identical.
Yeah, I know what you're
quite.
saying. It's like right when they split, they were identical. That one for a split second.
Yeah.
Then after that, whatever the
they have different
things
histories.
are going on, things happen.
Yeah, different histories. So, that's right. And, there's even been I saw an article somewhere where somebody committed a crime and it was one of the two identical twins, and they were able to tell which one that did it because one of them had a few little mutations, the other didn't, but they had to really dig hard and look for them. They could tell which one, or it was either that or it was a paternity test where they didn't know which twin was the father of this baby, but looking at those very subtle, very, very, very subtle differences, they were able to figure out which one it was.
Wow. Man, some of this stuff's nuts.
You're getting more and more sensitive is the problem with DNA. It's getting too good for its own good. Oh, you know what? That's a whole nother theme. DNA too good for its own good. DNA can survive the laundry. You know that? So you have they've done studies where clothes in the laundry, wash it, and there's still DNA on those clothes when it comes out the other side. So imagine you have a dad playing with his baby and throwing him around, feeding him, and then the next day, and that night or the next day, the dad goes on a business trip or something happens to the baby, and they start investigating and they see the dad's DNA on the clothes. And the clothes have already been through the washer, but they see so they say that something like the dad was there. I mean, why didn't the dad harm the baby? Because the dad's DNA is on the clothes.
Yeah.
But we're so sensitive, we can start seeing that.
It's almost getting too good where you might get to a point where it's too good where more errors come in, like the touch DNA situation.
Yeah, did I tell you about were we talking about the wealthy doctor in Beverly Hills that was, they broke in his house and it was in Bel Air, and he and his wife, they were from India, and these Hispanic guys broke in the house and they tied him up and stole a bunch of stuff. Well, they put duct tape around the doctor and he suffocated. He died. So they started investigating. They found DNA all over the house. They arrested 2 Hispanic guys, but the third guy was Caucasian, and he was this alcoholic down on Skid Row. And people liked him. Did I tell you that the last time?
Well, you told us one where It was transferred by the paramedics or something?
Yeah, that was it. And so
Okay.
again, it was the same finger cut to measure the oxygen that they used on the wealthy doctor who had been killed.
Yeah.
And then this other guy who was picked up off the street, they used the same one. That's where it got contamination.
I think just pure DNA testing is always really safe. Like if you got like semen or something like that, but touch DNA is really dicey, you know.
Yeah, right.
Unless there's no explanation for it, because you could figure it out. You could trace back in your story what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But of course, in a crime scene, sometimes you can't. You know, I mean, who knows? You know.
Well, that's true too. Like, let's say you had a shirt that you went to you brought to a dry cleaner, and then the lady at the dry cleaner maybe accidentally, oh wait, that's not your shirt, but that guy touched that shirt.
Yeah,
and went over here, and then you commit a crime, and all of a sudden, oh wow, look at that.
Right. I mean, you just pick up the shirt and she folds it or she irons it.
Yeah.
They have the workers that are working. So it's, you know, really more and more, less and less is good and bad. I know we talked about John Bonet and the DNA on her clothes could have come from the factory that produced them. So
somebody asked in here, I think it was someone named Whirlaway, said, can you please ask her if any more info has come out on the Bell in the Well case?
You know, not really. The problem there is the murder was committed right across the border from West Virginia. And I know that the detective had a few suspects he was kicking around. But, you know, West Virginia is West Virginia. You know, everybody's related. Nobody's really talking about anything. There are probably lots of people that know who did that, but nobody's saying anything. And, you know, there was at one point a witness that was going to say something, and his uncle showed up and had a few words with him and left, and he never said another word. So
just watch the movie Deliverance, okay, everybody?
Yeah, right. That's it.
I just watched that again this year. That is
wonderful. Well, you have too much time on your hands.
Hey, come on! It's late at night. I get off of here at like midnight, and then I turn on that. Okay.
I watched reruns of Dance Moms and 90 Day Fiance. You know, I have.
Oh my God, my wife watches that all the time. Every time I go in the room, I go, "What in the hell are you watching this for?" The 90 Day Fiance. Come on.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Sometimes I just can't stand it. I turn it off and I've had my enough TV for.
But obviously, it's watched though. So that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's on TV, so somebody's going to watch it. You know,
people like watching train wreck TV. That's the thing.
Yeah, train wrecks. I tell you, the women who get some 20-year younger guy from Jamaica, and they go down there and they have a vacation. And, oh my God, they have this torrent affair, and it's wonderful. And they come back, and they've got to have this guy come to the U.S. and get married.
Yeah, the whole thing is just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here.
What else do you want to talk about? There's so much stuff. By the way, we're working on Buckskin's Killer, by the way. And,
that's what I was wondering about. Like, I was going to ask you earlier, has they made any progress on that?
Well, let's say this. What I wanted to comment is we're working on the hair. There was a hair found on her body. Oh. So we're working on that. And I just want to comment to your viewers out there that that's one of the frontiers of technology is DNA from hair, because it was assumed it wouldn't work for a whole long bunch of years. Mm-hmm. Now, mitochondrial DNA, which is the female DNA, you have tons of that, and it was fine. But the nuclear stuff, the real stuff, they didn't know it was there until a few years ago, because they're looking typically for pieces this big of DNA, and all the nuclear pieces were this big. So that's, excuse my technical explanation, on that. But
well, people used to always think like, you had to have a hair, but it have to have that little follicle at the end. But now it's just hair.
Yeah, I'm saying that's getting to be a new thing, because it turns out that you do have the DNA in your root, mm-hmm. and as it grows out, the DNA starts to fracture and degrade. So if you have really long hair, the DNA at the tip is just going to be trashed. But the DNA close to your scalp, even without the root, in the hair shaft, is really actually pretty useful, and nobody knew that. but it's only those very small pieces, so you got to figure out a way to kind of put them all together in the right place so you have a big piece of DNA.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think scent dogs are going to be a thing of the past pretty soon.
Why is that?
Because I think there's going to be something that in the air
you can smell
can detect the DNA, sort of touch DNA that's floating in the air, and you'll be able to track the person around. I'm talking about in 100 years, but it just feels like
even a long time after, DNA is going to be somewhere in there.
Yeah, and so you'll just be able to track it around, and it'll be 100%. Probably way more accurate because it'll be. I don't know.
The only problem is, suppose you have a crime scene and, some guy's found dead in some room or something, and then the police come clean up the mess. Suppose it's in a train station. Everybody else has breathed right there around him. The police are breathing. So, in life, how are you going to fight that contamination?
Yeah. I wonder if it'll be something, well, like a scent dog, right? So it'd be similar where you take an item that the person was wearing and you put it in front of the nose, right?
I see.
So it might be something where you sort of calibrate the machine to a specific DNA profile and then...
I see what you mean.
I mean, but because they're getting more and more sensitive, like you were saying, detecting DNA, just ridiculous leaps and bounds almost every year. So.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to say that for the genealogists out there, one of the frontiers is like getting DNA from envelopes, that your grandma licked. And I know Intermountain has gotten DNA from envelopes in the 1920s. I wouldn't say they got a 55-gallon drum, but they did get, I'll say this, picograms or hundreds of picograms. For those of you who knows what that is, that's a little itsy-bitsy amount, in other words, but they got it. So they're doing very well with those kind of things.
I wonder if you could do, the milkman's love letter that he licked in 1947. Right?
You could. Hey,
who's my dad?
They didn't know it was the milkman at the time, but boy, did he get in trouble later.
Yeah, that'd be funny. You find a letter and you look it up and it ends up being a freaking milkman.
Yeah. Oh God.
The cliche.
I mean, really, think about that.
What else? Another question. Andrea asked one earlier. It said, "I want to know if she believes DNA." I don't know what this means, but it says DNA profiling is foolproof. She asked. I'm not sure what profiling means.
Usually, how to say this? I think it's pretty foolproof, pretty good, with the genetic genealogy and CODIS. I think that there's a possibility that two people will have the same CODIS profile, but it's billions and billions and billions unlikely. And besides that, you always back it up with whatever else information you have. So you don't just go take, genetic genealogy and there's the answer. Or, fingerprints, I would say, would be, I'm not a fingerprint person, but I think they'd be more apt to, I think the problem would be, fingerprints would be more apt to ambiguity, although a lot of people would argue about it. I think the problem with the error would be the source of the DNA. In other words, you think you're getting the DNA, but it's contamination, like we're talking about. You think you get the DNA off the baby's clothes, but the dad is contamination because the dad played with the baby the day before and the jumper was washed, but it survived. It's considered contamination and not the source. So I think the big problem is going to be, getting the source and recognizing the authentic source of the DNA you want to look at.
There's another. She wrote this longer kind of question, but there's like a almost conspiratorial type that says, "I've heard stories of lab employees motivated to manipulate the tests to fit the prosecution's case, and in some cases the tests were not performed at all, on purpose. They didn't. They just said, 'Oh yeah, it matches.'" I haven't really heard of any of that.
I don't know, but I'd say it's minority. I can't vouch for the whole system. I did hear one case that was a mixture, and let's say they took the victims out they found the guy they thought it might be. And then they took the mixture again. They took him out and they got the victim's DNA. And they said, oh my God, we got to be right because it's got to be him because there's a victim. You know, in other words, they undid it, and then they reversed it and they said, hey, it's right. They said their own, anyway, if you follow that. I've heard kind of a little bit, but, you know, somebody said, well, wait a minute. If you're assuming it's her DNA anyway, and you're getting her DNA back out, you're not proving anything. So they got caught. I can't say there isn't. I think it's more likely they're not going to test the DNA, or they're going to claim it's DNA, but
I think you would always want to do like two. If you were somebody that looks, for example, like the Innocence Project type, you would want them to do one and you run one. You wouldn't just go.
They do that. No, but they do that.
Right. That
and
makes
by
sense.
the way, every time you have a DNA test done, there's always 2 labs that do it. Golden State Killer, there were 2 labs that did that. It wasn't just one, because, you know, you assume the lab's been accredited, validated, you know, all the people trained, and they go through every year. They have to, you know, be reevaluated again. You assume all that, but you still have 2 labs generally that look at those cases to make sure that they're consistent. And they're completely separated geographically, everything like that, right? They just each get part of the sample and they see if it's the same answer.
All right. Well, we got.
So I wouldn't go too far with the conspiracy.
Right. We've got somebody in here that actually does do the dog. She's a dog.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
She said, I don't know what she's saying when she says we, but she says, we can already detect proteins in the human body that are secreted due to a gene. And they're actually trying to train their I think it was what she explained was that when you're under stress, your body secretes, and it's training the dog to sort of follow that.
And endocrine system. Yeah. And in fact, that's how they're starting to tell the twins apart, by their different endocrine systems.
Oh, there you go. Well,
now, DNA's the same, but the rest of the stuff is.
Are they going to give that to the teachers at the school who never can quite tell who's who? They just go, let me get my endocrine. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, let me get my endocrine dog out. Hey, you're the older one. Don't give me any lip.
All right. Hey, but you guys can. I put the number in the community section if anybody wants to actually call in and talk to Colleen. I know it's a little intimidating.
Yeah, you can do that. I know, I'm intimidated.
Because she's so mean, just like me.
Yeah, I'm so mean. I'm so awful. I'm so... Here, I'm scary, right? I'm scared. See the horns coming out. I'll get you, my pretty. And you're a little dog, too.
Oh, wait. Well, see, I'm glad... see, here's the thing is my wife watched Wizard of Oz for the first time in her life just a week ago or so. Yeah. And she was like, in the middle of the night, she was like, and I just had to wake her up because she was having this bad dream.
What, about the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, it scared her.
Wizard of Oz.
Well, the actual movie, you know, the old 1939.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the Lizard of Oz, and I
no,
thought
that's
somebody
Lizard
had done a takeoff.
Yeah, see, I got to tell you, see, I've got these emojis in the chat here. I don't know if you've ever seen this one, but
yeah, I don't know. I think I either closed it or I can't find that.
Oh, okay. Well, I have this thing called a lizard eye, right? And I created that. So you just said you're a lizard, right?
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, I see the chat. I got it again.
We got to make that the Lizard of Oz. I like that one. But,
okay, if the identical twins have differently acting DNA, is it because of epigenetics? Or does the actual DNA differentiate? No, the DNA differentiates as the twins mature. Each one has its own history of mutations. Most of the mutations are corrected because we're all fine, you know. Some of them, a little tiny bit, aren't. They get through the spell check, so to speak. So, you know, it just happens. It's a natural phenomenon.
Maybe I did say somebody else said I did say Lizard of Oz. I'm going to have to go back and listen. Somebody said I
thought you said lizard, you know, so...
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you my lizard eye story, okay? Listen to this.
Okay.
I went to a bar. There was this waitress that I thought was kind of pretty. She sat down with me at a table, and I looked at her, and I thought, wow, she has some nice, exotic-looking eyes. You know, but instead of saying that, I said, hey, you know, your eyes look like a lizard. Okay? It didn't work out for me. We didn't.
No.
You know, it wasn't smooth. Okay.
Mischance. A mischance.
Yeah, but that actually happened. So.
Oh, great. And you say that on the air.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
Now
Self-deprecation.
everybody knows, and she knows she's out there. She's going to call you and say,
Wait a minute.
Me.
So he did think my eyes were pretty. I thought he was insulting me by saying that they look like a lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can't be helped now. I mean, it's one of those things.
Hey, Susanna, why don't you call in on the... you can call in, maybe. Somebody could...
ask my own question, you mean? Just call in.
Yeah. It's in the community chat is the phone number, okay? If you're a channel member only. So there's like 350 of you.
Yeah, well, I can put my... Let's see. How many people are on the podcast?
Yes, ask yourself a question.
Yeah, you can do that. Dude, I don't even know.
Oh, we got 100. There's 145 right now watching.
Oh, really? That's a lot of people. So
we get more
I put it in the chat and I hit return. I was going to put my website. I'm trying to redo the website. Please, God, forgive me for not doing it. But I can't. It doesn't click and go into the chat. So.
Oh. Well,
wait, no. I'm actually typing in the emoji.
Oh, okay.
Duh! The woman has a doctorate in physics. She doesn't know how to use a chat box. Hey, Lloyd, come see this.
Jennifer asked you to tell us what that license plate is behind you there.
Oh, that's my license plate while I was in graduate school in North Carolina. I mean, some things you can't part with. Here's my old website, which I hate. I have to do something with it.
Let's see.
Okay, and I have my Facebook pages and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'd really like to. It'd be so cool to solve that. Help pay. I mean, obviously, I'm not solving anything, but to fund that 1961 case and give some answers to somebody.
Yeah, that would be really good. Now, I'm working on seeing if there's DNA there or not. So, hold a thought, and if there. Yeah, there's not DNA immediately, but I know people that do tricky DNA stuff. Excuse my technical terminology, but tricky DNA stuff, and I want to ask them about it because we do work on very difficult cases. So I have a little bit of questions to ask other people who know a little bit more than I do.
Yeah. See, somebody just asked what the number is. I only have it posted for channel members in the community section, as I stated. The Zodiac killer had his envelope seals going through DNA search.
They've just cracked some of the Zodiac codes. You know that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it said some team from Australia of code crackers had like a big super monster computer that like could eat the world if it tried, and they ran it through some of the ciphers, and some guy saw the word gas chamber in it, and he said, oh, that's interesting. What's the chance that randomly somewhere in their code it would say gas chamber? And he said, probably not too high. So that means we figured something out, and they took that hammer and they hammered on the rest of it, and then they got one of the letters solved. And it's, it doesn't say, but the guy did say he revealed his name in one of the other letters. So there's like 3 of them.
It's funny because I was looking at another one of the letters, and I was kind of looking at angles like that too and everything. But man, what they came up with, I didn't find anything. But I happened to be looking at it the same way. But they had this whole program, and then start over here, go around here. It was crazy. Yeah, that must have been so amazing for them.
I don't know how I have to tell you this stupid thing. I don't mean to say the guy wasn't sincere, but somebody called me and emailed me, and he said he had been working on the Zodiac killer, and there was one of the suspects he thought was more interesting than another one. So he was looking at the picture one night in bed, he had his laptop on his belly looking, and he tipped the screen, and suddenly he saw all these features on the guy's forehead, and he said, what's that? And he got up to work on it, and he says he could see cartoon characters on the guy's forehead of this picture of the suspect. I forgot. I think the guy's name is Alan or something. So he got up and he looked at other pictures of Alan, whoever he was, and he said, gee, that guy has these cartoon characters stamped on his forehead. Isn't that guy clever? The Zodiac is really antagonizing the police, knowing he's got these cartoon characters and they can't see it. So he took Play-Doh. Remember the Play-Doh in the cartoon?
Yep.
And he rolled the Play-Doh on the Sunday paper with the comics, and he just kept stamping it until you couldn't see the ink anymore. And it turned out there was some residue that you could see under ultraviolet light because it still had some stuff on the Play-Doh. So you understand they have very dark pictures, and it got lighter and lighter and lighter as he stamped and stamped and stamped. And finally, in the end, you couldn't see anything, but there was still some residue. So he came to the conclusion that the Zodiac was taking Play-Doh or something and stamping his head with all of these cartoon characters. Sounds bizarre. I did get this.
So did somebody see? I mean, somebody saw his face with these stamps on it?
Yeah. The guy, he was just,
know
sometimes at night you're reading about serial killers before you go to bed and stuff. And
Oh, yeah.
he saw this picture of this guy. He blew it up a little bit, and he goes, gee, what's that on his forehead? And, I think it looks like Jigs and Maggie or Dagwood Bumstead, if you know all these old comics. And he investigated that further, and he saw at the bottom of the letter, he saw these cartoon characters saying the thing he thought they were, and other pictures, and he thought, okay, now all I have to do is look for these cartoon characters, and that's the Zodiac signature. And he brought other crimes that they had crime scene, and they saw these cartoon characters again. So he came to me, and he said, I know you're in optics, and you have been. I need you to take a look at this because this is interesting. This is the Zodiac signature, that he's stamping these cartoon characters on his letters, on his forehead, on his photographs. So I said, okay. He says, I'll send you some of the pictures, he said, but you have to, don't make it too big. It looks better if you don't make it too big and you tip the screen a certain way.
It is.
Well, you know how pixelation works? What was happening is that those pictures had been forwarded so many times unsaved on the internet that you have such low resolution that you blow it up and you're going to start to see anything you want in the image.
Yeah, I call it pareidolia. People they actually end up seeing shapes. Well, for example, right now on the screen, I don't know if you can see the chat. There's a little image that looks like me with my hat on and a goatee.
Yeah, I can't see it because it's like this big.
Oh yeah, well if you could see it.
Yeah.
The thing is, it looked just like me, but it turned out to be paint on a lock. But I saw it, and I wanted to let people. I wanted to show it to them because it's a perfect example of it. It's ridiculous. It has a goatee, the same visor, a headset, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't real at all. Like you start seeing shapes in the carpet if you look long.
In the clouds, you see Jesus in the clouds.
And yet it's not really him, right?
Yeah, and it's a piece of pizza, but the pepperonis look like it's the Blessed Virgin or something, I don't mean to make fun of religion. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, or Elvis, let's say you have a piece of pizza and it looks like it's Elvis or something.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of these true crime YouTube channels and Facebook pages, they see things like that and claim it to be something real.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. A lot of people go, oh, look at that, look, there's a face. I know it's in a grain of wood. I know it's in the wood itself, but that's a face. I know it is.
That should be easy to detect. Fake news. Some of the rest isn't.
No, they keep going with it. Hey, let me try to. What's going to happen here is once I add this person, it's going to mess up how I have you on the screen. I think one of us, anyways.
That's all right. So who are you going to add?
So you're half screen now. So hold on. 707, you're on. 707. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Hello. Hi there. Are you there?
Yes.
It's Susanna.
Hey, it's Susanna. She's the one. She's the dog.
I kind
she's
of
the
got
dog.
cold.
She's the dog owner.
Okay. Hi, Susanna, the dog owner.
Well, not just the owner. She has sent dogs.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yeah, I work with cadaver dogs.
I do too. Sometimes.
Where are you located? Where are you located?
but this precise moment in time, I'm in New Caledonia.
She's all over the place.
Out, kind of close, but kind of far from Australia. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So what do you got?
Okay, well, I was just going to mention my pet project, or our pet project. Sorry, I've got a cold and I'm on a bad cell phone. We have now discovered that SLC6A4 melatonin transporter uptake gene.
And?
Okay, I heard about the gene, and you've detected a gene. What does the gene do?
What did you say? Uptick? Are you still there, Susanna?
Susanna McGillifardrick. I love the name.
She's the one that last time you were on.
Yeah, that's my real last name in Irish. So.
Are you still there?
Susanna.
I think she's so far away. She's on like some island somewhere.
Yeah, New Caledonia, right. She's probably on a case out there.
Susanna, I can tell that you're
she
still
can
there.
Call back. She can call back.
I hear the fuzz, Susanna. I bet you got a quarter of a bar, right?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can now.
Yep.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, the gene is the serotonin transporter gene. Oh, God, sorry. Serotonin transporter gene. It's got two different lengths. And the dog can detect the difference.
Oh, man.
Man, that's really cool.
The
I
dog can
love
detect
that.
it. I knew she cut off right there, but she's
No, I love it. If she can hear, maybe she can still hear us. That is fabulous.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's
Can you hear me?
fabulous.
Great, brilliant. Yeah, so we already can determine certain things based. Well, everything in the world is based, in the human world is based upon some sort of gene anyway. But we're now learning more and more that those genes that actually cause some sort of chemical difference in the body, which result in different smells, right? Mm-hmm. We can distinguish those.
Mm.
So what a bunch of us are doing is trying to figure out how we can refine this and what other types of genetic conditions or I'm not a geneticist, I'm sorry. I missed all that in university. But if we can detect that subtle difference between a short form and a long form of the gene, we're thinking that we can really start now to nail down other very subtle things.
Excellent. I've heard that dogs can be used to diagnose cancer.
Yep.
Yes, they can. Also diabetes and a few other things. Excuse me. Yeah. So we can do an awful lot.
When you say diabetes, can they detect? Is it like just the fact that you have diabetes, or when you're when you need an insulin shot? Because it seems
when it starts to detect, really, it'll catch you before you absolutely need an insulin shot. It'll detect at a very low level that chemical imbalance is going to lead you to needing the shot, so that you don't have to get lightheaded or any of the symptoms that you get when you're starting to need it.
That'd be a nice dog instead of pricking yourself every 2 seconds,
The dog barks.
Yeah. Hey, you need a shot. Bites you in the arm.
Yeah, I've got a couple here with me, and I just told them to not bark for a while. Maybe they will listen to me, and maybe my kids will listen to me. They don't always listen to me, So anyway, that's one thing that we're carefully looking into, and we can extrapolate that further and further. And I'm writing a paper, and one of the people who are really doing the hard part of the paper is a geneticist. So, together.
That's fabulous. Cool. I can you send me a copy when you all are getting through it or getting done with it?
Oh, sure. I can for sure give you my section.
Okay.
Because what we do is we have I don't like to do the citation part in my documents, so I just mark them, and then we always hire a person to compile the parts into a whole, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can give you my stuff for sure. I don't have a problem. Excuse me.
Well, just let me just say this. She doesn't sound like this, okay? She normally sounds totally different than this. So yeah, I could tell you're not feeling well.
No, I'm not well at all. It's a cold. It's not like, God forbid, it's not corona. It's just like strep throat almost.
Oh dear.
I woke up with it.
Wow.
Yeah, I woke up with it, and I'm not generally, excuse me, a person who gets just sick for nothing. So I had a COVID test yesterday morning at the hospital, and I don't have it.
Yeah, because other things still are going around, you know, like what's weird is during the COVID time, every single thing anybody gets is COVID, right? It's never like everybody thinks that anyways. But guess what, everybody? There's still strep throat.
Yeah.
There's still common colds. There's still this.
You know what? I heard on the radio that nobody's getting the flu this year because everybody's staying home
and wearing the
masks.
And the masks, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I still got my flu shot.
Yeah, I have four children, and none of them have been sick at all this year. You know, they always get some cold, you know, whatever's running about, but they're not running about themselves to connect with anybody else who's running about. So they're being quite healthy, which is nice. Yeah, we can also detect when an epileptic seizure is about to start too.
Wow.
We're working on that. In fact, we are past working on that. A paper was published about last year on that. So, yeah, we're doing a lot now more. If we can tell which genes will impact the chemicals in the body, then we can, and like the allele length, the short length and the long length, you know, because that tells you one length. When you're under stress, I'm under stress. Under stress, excitement, fear. This kick in with more serotonin. Okay, and so I have to scare the bejesus out of people in my study group. And it's really hard to find someone visually who responds being.
Well, what are you scaring them? What are you scaring them with? What are you doing?
What are you scaring them with?
Trigger the gene.
Huh?
Yeah, I want to fire off the neurons that associated.
Right, but what are you doing to scare them?
What the hell? One person I told him that there was a leopard after them.
They believed you? Didn't they just look behind him and say, I don't see a leopard?
No, believe it or not, if you tell someone that they're about to be pounced, they freeze up totally, or they run, and we tell them they can't run.
Well, where did you say this at? Where were you? Were you in Africa when you did that?
Yeah, I was in South Africa.
That's okay. Good. Because if you'd said that in Australia, it'd be weird.
You weren't in your living room watching Dance Moms. Or
right.
Oh, no.
But see, that would be scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about, my husband's an extremely good marksman, and I thought about having him shoot at somebody and miss, but I don't know if that's legal.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
That's too scary. That's too scary.
And that's the problem. That's the problem with this gene. You have to get the person in the right state.
Okay, how about this? A red laser beam. Have it like on their chest or somehow, and you go, "Oh my God, there's been somebody after me for a while." But it's just, it's like your husband with one of those pen lights, but you kind of scare him.
No, I have a Glock with a lovely laser sight that will project green or red. I can use my own Glock. I don't need his.
Well, no, you wouldn't even use a Glock.
I'm not. No, that's a brilliant idea.
Look, as soon as you start bringing a Glock into it, then you're in the weird territory. I'm saying use a light, just one of those pens, and make him think that, but the person's hidden somewhere, right? And you just tell him that you've had a
Pardon
sniper
me, I'm so
after you.
sorry. Yeah,
that's okay.
That could be. And the other thing that we've actually, I can't say we've discovered it, someone else did, is that it's part a, excuse me, the numbers about who carries the short and long form of the gene vary based upon race. Yeah, like I can take a room of 100 people, 100 Anglo-Saxon people, okay? And out of that 100 Anglo-Saxon people, about 52% will have a gene length that's short.
But what does that mean if it's short? What does it mean if it's short?
What it means, genes can have varying lengths, right?
Yeah, I know.
Right? But what does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean?
You have a third arm, or your, your hair?
No. It means it means you have. Sorry, it means one will fire off SOC6A4, and the other one won't. That's the difference in population.
No,
so
but
I
do
was
you get
out there
scared?
in South Africa.
Do you get scared easy?
When they're scared. When they're scared,
right.
Scared, excited, stressed, or aroused. And one of those things. So I can.
I always like when she laughs.
Patients do that.
Yeah.
You see, we're going to be able to now, with the help of a mate of mine, and another friend of mine, and a third friend of mine, we're doing some research now into all other things we think we could detect that are a result of some gene popping off a neuron in your brain and start to excrete an odor or a chemical pattern that the dogs can detect. So we're going to be eventually able to tell a lot about the person just with the dog. It's going to be more than just having the dog's nose on the ground, right? And going after people and happy tail. It's going to be a lot more than that.
You're going to profile people with your dog, right?
I bet you.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the precise. That's basically.
But they'll never know it, though. They'll never know it. There'll just be this dog that's going to give you signals, and then you'll start you'll follow that person, because.
Yeah. Because we're already dropping a track because of that gene, right? That's why dogs will just sit on the track and look at you like, I'm bored.
What was that?
So
I didn't even know.
If the dog can lose a track based on that protein, then we can teach it to recognize the various chemical odors.
Oh, I get that.
For other things.
I get that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's going to be really useful in the future, we hope. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be, for two of my friends, they're going to slog through it. It's something we're doing in our spare time, because I'm no longer, a postgrad or something, and I'm not a reader at Oxford anymore. So there's, we're not really given time in a professional life to do this. We all do different things now, but we're going to get through it. I just have to scare a lot of people to get a test sample.
Do fireworks or something behind them or something.
Did you have somebody at your place get on your phone a second ago? Susanna?
Me?
Yeah, because we heard this voice. This voice came by. Everybody else heard the same thing. It's like it's like something that said, "I'm bored" or something. Huh? Did you hear
that? I said that.
Oh, you said
I said that because the dog would say, the dog will just sit down on its rump and look up at you with the I'm bored look.
Okay, but when but you got to realize that you're actually on a call, right? So as soon as you say that, when you're talking to your dog, nobody knows that, right?
So somebody's bored in New Caledonia with the dog.
The dog is.
Yeah, well, the dog is.
I've got with me right now in New Caledonia 9 German Shepherds.
Yeah, you changed your voice completely when you said it, so it kind of confused everybody. I heard it too. But anyway.
I meant to say it in a low voice like a dog.
I missed it.
Oh, wow, that sounds totally different. So, okay, I guess we cured that. I was thinking, did somebody hack into the...
Yeah, it's kind of...
But anyways, well, hey, that'll be interesting stuff. Send us the, updates.
Send me more.
You can send her the technical stuff.
I sure will. Yeah, I sure will do that. What else was I going to say? Genetically, what was it?
Well, you have a very nice accent while you're thinking about that. It's
really, it's a lot better. When she's not sick, it sounds a lot better. It sounds like more,
I can catch it. I love the name. Is that your real last name, McGillifardrick?
Yeah, it should be McGillifardrick, right? Because I'm a female.
Yeah, I'm not the expert. I'm not the expert.
But, yeah, it can go either way, and it should have been Mog. What happened is that I was born at sea. I wasn't born on the land, which is probably why I can be confusing. I was born on a U.S. ship in U.S. close tidal waters by Hilo, Hawaii. And they're the ones who did my birth certificate, And they just took my father's name and stuck it as my name. And my people didn't even notice. My parents didn't even notice until we got to San Francisco, apparently. And to change that thing in Hawaii, you have to physically go to a judge. Now, why would anybody physically go to a judge for that?
Yeah. Well, because we of course, I'm a McGillifardrick aficionado fan, and we'd love to have you in the clan because we studied the origin of the name, and having a bona fide McGillifardrick would be amazing. So I'd like to exchange email with you.
Okay. Yeah. I belong to one clan group. I get their newsletter. So yeah.
There are a couple of us.
I'll email you.
I'm a Fitzpatrick in two ways. It kind of confusing. I'm a Fitzpatrick descended from some Fitzpatricks who went to Canada. Well, they went to France and then they went to Canada.
Yeah, the wild geese. They're called wild geese.
Exactly. They were part of these people, and they went to France and they became like mercenaries.
Correct.
And
they're
my ancestor. Yeah, exactly. So my ancestor got great joy in mucking up the English, and it's a genetic thing because one of my ancestors even was a pirate in the Revolutionary War, and he I don't know that he'd ever really had a lot to do with Americans. All it had to be was a British thing, and they're up for it to say, oh, okay, I volunteer, let me in, I'll get them. So that's the interesting side, I think, and that's from my mom. So
it's much more exciting than being descended from a bunch of dock workers who are Irish famine immigrants. So,
I have those too.
But I
have those two on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was going to put a Jolly Roger flag on my son's mobile above his crib just to get him indoctrinated. but I can't teach him not to like the British because I'm married to a British, an English.
You should have thought about that ahead of time.
Well, you can't control love, and that, and reconciliation is a powerful virtue, naturality. So I'll have to. I've got to figure out. I want him to maintain the pirate mentality, because a pirate mentality is not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
We've already taught them to be to associate value with action, because we pay them off to get when a tooth falls off or to get a vaccine or whatever. We tell them ahead of time, and we negotiate how much money we'll give them for being stoic.
Well, listen, since you've got pirate blood, I want you to give me your best pirate accent, and then we're gonna go.
Where's the sore throat?
Yeah.
Oi.
That's it?
Oh, let's see. Ho, and a bottle of rum.
Oh, and a bottle of rum.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yes.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. When this paper, my part of the paper gets to a really understandable point, I'll ship it off, to a few people.
Okay.
I'll give her your email. I'll send her your email address, and then you guys
let's
can...
say Gray will exchange us some email addresses, because I'd like to get you into our clan and like to get you involved with a name like McGillifodrick. You need it.
Yeah. Oh wait, one last time. There's one more request here. You got to call. Yeah. Do your pirate accent with the voice you use to talk to your dog. Okay, it's a little deeper sound.
Okay. Hey, Puppet! Hey, dog!
Wait, no.
What are you? Oh, what a good girl! That's my good girl, aren't you so brave? Yeah, so good.
That's not it though. That's not.
Good dog.
That wasn't that wasn't your pirate accent.
That's not pirate though.
Yeah, you got to do the pirate accent using that voice. Okay, that's what was suggested by Zozo. You know how that deeper voice that you used when you said, "I'm bored," when you talked about your dog.
Oh goodness, I don't use a tone of voice with the dogs.
Hey, well,
I'd have to be, honestly, okay. They're sitting around me, looking at me like I'm daft.
You might need a couple drinks to do that.
I could do it in that voice. I can explain it. I could do something in that voice, right?
Yeah.
But that Lord, here she is. She heard me. Good girl, you're my baby. If I do it in that kind of tone that you're talking about, that was being bad.
Hey, but check it out, Susanna. Hey, Susanna, we got another caller just called in, so we got to get that person in there. But I'll send you. I'll send Colleen your address.
Yeah, let's exchange emails so that I can get you in the right clan.
Yeah, of course. Eventually, I think we'll be back in either Brazil or London once things die down.
Yeah.
With the COVID, or Brazil, somewhere. I'm not even going to Ireland. I don't know. So we'll be somewhere that I can provide some DNA for you all.
All right.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Well, have a good one.
Okay, we'll talk later. We'll talk soon.
Be safe. Lovely. Excuse me. Lovely to talk to you all.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Hold on.
That was interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there another caller or?
There is another one. Hold on a second.
Okay.
All right.
Hope I can answer this one.
I don't know who this is. Doesn't say anything.
This is call-in user. Oh no, it might be. Who knows? It might be the Zodiac.
Hey, call-in user.
No, I'm not the Zodiac killer.
Well,
doesn't sound like a very high voice.
Who is it? Who is this?
This is Destiny Blazik.
Okay.
Yeah, you are my destiny, something like that. All the boys say you are my destiny.
Oh, goodness.
You've heard it before, I'm sure.
Yeah, a million times a day.
Had to. Sorry.
So what was your question?
Okay.
You got a question?
Good. No, it's fine. I did. Well, first of all, thank you for all of your insight. I've really appreciated all of it. It's definitely a huge part of my life now. I grew up like in the Waterloo, Iowa area.
Oh, I've been there. I've been there.
Familiarized. Yeah, so like the
there.
Delphi case happened in that area and things, so that kind of interests me. But I have a personal case with my cousin that I have a question about, and he, in my opinion, is wrongfully convicted for murder, and he's been in prison for 15 years. And there is some DNA evidence that could possibly release him. And I'm kind of wondering what your opinion on this evidence is, and if like maybe we have a chance. And like, he is my cousin. I'm not like gung-ho, like, yeah, he didn't do it. But my family has spent thousands and thousands of dollars, and I just kind of want your insight on it. So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and ask. Basically, without any backstory, the incriminating evidence that they had against him was DNA evidence that they found on the person's body, and that is dried blood that was found on their coat or just somewhere because they were laying down the body. So they found it, and basically they saw that it was my cousin's DNA, but he did have a scab on the back of his hand that was healing, which they have pictures of course, because they took pictures of his hands and things. He didn't have any wet scratches or marks, and the blood that they found, like I said, was dried and not wet. But they did use that against him. So that's part of it. But my question there is, do you think that that would be something that could really keep someone in prison with just a dried blood, dried blood DNA on someone's body? And then along with that is... No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. If the DNA was at the crime scene, it's at the crime scene. So, that's number one.
So, well, he was staying in the house at the time, and he did know, he did tell the police that he did check the body for a pulse, and that is why his blood was there. However, my issue is there's DNA that they found under the body's fingernails that does not match my cousin, and they did not find his DNA under the fingernails. And my opinion is, you'd think if he'd be in a fight, that the DNA under the fingernails would be the telling key of, who killed that person. So I'm just kind of wondering, in your experience with everything, do you think that, it still could be a possibility that he killed him, even though there's no DNA evidence under the fingernails, or anywhere else other than that dried blood?
Okay, well, I know what you've told me, so I would say that it's almost necessary to look at that DNA under the fingernails, and the defense should have done that. The defense should have ordered that. We have cases we work on, say that we think we figured out who did it, but yet the defense comes forward and said, oh, well, there's more DNA. She had DNA on her jacket, or she had DNA on her earring. She had DNA. There was a piece of paper. And so it's really the defense's responsibility to bring that out and say, hey, there's other DNA. He was already in the house, so there's a logical reason why his DNA would be around. Number one, but number two, there's other DNA that has not been tested. So before you put him in prison, that was 15 years ago, that needed to be checked out. Now, if there was reasons why it wasn't checked out or something, I don't know that from what you tell me, but I would see it be a fair deal if they would check it out, and if they still have that DNA, it needs to be done.
And they have tested the DNA actually, and they know whose DNA it is.
Okay.
And they are working on refiling his case and representing it again. But I just know that I guess in my experience with just researching cases and listening, to Gray and everything else, just when you find DNA under someone's fingernails, that's kind of like a huge teller of who, did murder someone, especially if they died in an assault. So I didn't know if in your experience that was something that's a huge teller for you, or if, it's kind of like a hit and miss type of deal.
Well, I can't say that once it gets to that stage, it's more or less out of my hands, because it's, you think who did it, and the attorneys take over. So I don't know how prevalent that is. I would, logical experience says if there's something under somebody's fingernails, that there's a reason for the DNA being there. Now, whether it could be somebody just in the house and, he says, hey, I got this stuff on my arm, and she goes and brushes it off, or he says, my back itches, can you scratch my back, or something, or they pick up I can't say that, but if it's somebody who's not in the house, I'd say it's more telling than if somebody is in the house.
I think when you get like a situation when there's an assault going on and somebody's murdered and you find skin underneath the fingernails, it's a high likelihood that they got that defending themselves.
Yeah.
But it's not 100%, but like you
said.
Right,
I don't know. It's not 100%. So I would say would give him a fair deal. Now, why haven't they hauled out the guy whose DNA it belongs to? Why haven't they arrested him and accused him?
Right, and that's an issue that we're dealing with. We had basically someone who was around town saying that they did actually kill the person, but the cops were like, we have our killer, so that's that. We've already arrested them, and they just kind of went along with it. Unfortunately, but we're working against it, and it's one of those things. But we have actually proven that the DNA is this man that's going around town. It's just a matter of refiling and things like that. But it's kind of like one of those things. Like half of my family is like, no,
How did you prove
my cousin did it for sure?
How did you prove that?
I'm sorry.
How did you prove that guy? Like how did you get his DNA to be able to test it to see if that it matched the DNA on your cousin?
I personally don't know all of the details with that, but I know that it was done a long time ago. Or maybe recently. I know that he was working with his lawyer, but I don't know I think they have to go to trial again before they're able to retest all of that. I don't know how all of that works. But I know that there is documents of who the DNA under the fingernails belongs to.
Well, when you go to trial like
that,
you're innocent and proven theoretically innocent until you're proven guilty. So all the defense really has to do is introduce reasonable doubt. You have to be guilty. I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is you have to be proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. So somehow the defense, the prosecution won on that one. Now, whether it was the police testimony or not, I don't know.
Has he been going around? Go ahead. Well, has he been going around saying this after your cousin was convicted?
Yes. And, yeah, he has. And there's actually someone who he told a certain person in town who on her deathbed when she was in the hospital, told the fireman that had helped her, or the EMT, that she knew this information and then needed to tell the police, and all that's on file. And then we have people that have heard it and testified. So, but it's just a matter of the judge approving him to go back for the retrial.
It's amazing. Let's say this all is. Let's just say it's all real stuff, and your cousin's innocent. I mean, it's always so frustrating how slow the cogs of absolute there's so many cases that we've talked about where you have this information that's just so clear Yet it takes forever for somebody, the prosecutor, to finally go, okay, and then like years. I think those prosecutors sometimes should serve, I always say, half the time that they made somebody else serve that didn't do it. You know, it's like,
how about that?
You know, because it's just so ludicrous to me. That,
Yeah.
you know, that means you made somebody guilty that wasn't even guilty at all. Like, you know, some of these people that are on death row, that get exonerated, they've been sitting in isolation for 20 years, and they didn't do a damn thing. That means the prosecutor sold an absolute pile of crap just by the way he worded it and sneaky, you know, tricky little stuff to a jury, to somebody that was completely innocent. And I just find that insane. You know?
We talked about Kirk Campbell, the first guy who was exonerated by DNA. You know, the guy. We talked about that last time, Gray.
I think so.
He was the same way. You know, just he was home watching TV, no real alibi, and he didn't even look like the guy who killed the little girl.
Jeez. It's ridiculous.
And I guess that's what the issue is. Like, at my point, it's like I've looked at everything I can, and it's so clear to me. But I just kind of wanted your opinion because, you know, there is that half side of my family that's like, no, you know, if they tried him, you know, he did it. But he did also have only a public defender because he didn't have money at the time. Yeah. So, you know, this person probably didn't look at all of the evidence in the way he should have and presented it the right way. Otherwise, I don't believe we'd be in this situation. But it is crazy to me that you have to kind of like go through a judge and get them to look at all this, and then their decision bases on everything, like if there's a retrial or not. And if there's not, then it's like, okay, well, we have all this evidence, but this one person isn't agreeing with it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just kind of frustrating. But I appreciate your...
All I can give you is my
insight and everything.
Yeah, is that you need. They should have introduced reasonable doubt by the DNA under the fingernails. I've seen that done before, and you know, it was up to the defense to do that. And if you didn't have a good defense attorney because it's court appointed, well, that happens. You know, so that should be. You know, like, what is it? The incompetence of the defense, or the lack of. Lack of sufficient defense, or whatever that is, because there's reasonable doubt.
And that's definitely something they're mentioning in the retrial or the filing. They put like he didn't have obviously good defense, otherwise he wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah.
I guess my other question would be, before I will let other people ask, would be, what would be your recommendation, I guess, as far as kind of getting the case known? I mean, I feel like in my position, just getting pressure on the judge or just like the system would be the best option.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
So what would you suggest would be, should I go to like local news stations, or what would you suggest?
I'd say I wouldn't. The problem with publicity is I don't know the judge, that could turn the judge, really aggravate the judge, right? If you have a whole bunch of people saying, right. So you got to play that really careful. And, you know, I don't want to turn you back to the attorney, or, you know, discuss it with his attorney or your own attorney, but I would say that's the best course of action. Or, you know, Innocent Project, you know, you could go to them and just ask them what they would do. Even if they, you know, you can't get in with them, maybe there's one in wherever you're from. You know, they know how to work the system like that. Just going to the press might really piss the judge off. You know, if you gain popularity and you gain some kind of notoriety for the crusade, you know, in favor of your cousin, it's not always like it is when all the movie stars say the guy's innocent and, you know, the good judge caves in or something. It just might aggravate him and make him even more determined to keep him in prison.
Right. And we have contacted Innocence Project, and they have been in contact with his lawyer as well. Yeah. And they seem like they're helpful. I don't think they're like taking it on like as their own personal case or anything. Right. But they've been helpful for sure. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way. You know. Yeah. I hate to turn you back into the people that you're asking for help
No, you're
anyway,
fine.
but that's who, in fact, you're doing a good job. That's who you need to talk to.
Mhm. Great. Okay.
Where are you
And
located?
then that's
Where
what
are
I'm
you
going to do to
located?
kind of aggravate the judge.
Yeah,
I'm
be
located
careful.
personally right now in Denver, Colorado.
Okay, good.
But yeah, my family is all located in like the Waterloo, northern Iowa
right.
area.
I've been there.
Mhm.
They make rocket motors
Yeah.
there. They make
Yeah.
it's a defense plant. I went there to do some work as a rocket scientist, not to launch the rockets, but to do quality control on them. So
Wow.
Yeah.
You've done so many things.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
just
why
can't
I
keep a
wanted your
job.
opinion, so I appreciate it.
Just can't keep a job.
I hear you.
No, but you're doing a good job. You really are doing well talking to the right people. It's frustrating. It takes so long. Even the right people take so long. I mean, if you think the right people take long, think about talking to the wrong people. You know, so you're doing.
Yeah.
I just have to say, good luck with it, because personally, there's nothing I can do. I'm just, rowing the boat like everybody else.
Well, you
Oh,
still
not
helped.
really.
You still helped.
Okay,
You
well,
still
good.
helped.
It was
So
good.
I appreciate
That's what
it.
I did
And
today.
it's been most of my life. I'm 25, and it's been 15 years he's been in there. So I'm ready to figure this out. So I appreciate it.
Okay.
And I
Well,
appreciate
thank
you,
you.
Gray, for having me on.
Oh, cool.
I've already been on here before. So.
Good luck with that.
Thanks for
Good luck
calling
with
in.
that.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll keep everyone updated.
Okay.
Have a great night, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Wait, now let me fix your picture here really quick.
Yeah, I see the top of my head
There it is.
and my terrible haircut. There we are.
Well,
No
I
haircut.
definitely just want to have your hair on the side. In the side.
Please.
Well, listen. You do a hell of a lot more than rowing the boat. You help the captain steer the boat.
I'm the little kid. I'm the little guy in the front.
The coxswain?
with
No.
the microphone going, row.
No, you're not
Row.
you're not the coxswain. Okay, you're not
Row.
the coxswain. You are.
Okay.
Because doing some of the stuff that you're doing, you're literally, let's say you identify a victim or a killer. Well, that's steering the ship. Okay.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
actually you're the map for the pilot.
No, I tell you, I'm changing the world. That's what I'm doing. That's what I've done, and that's what I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
because not many people have had that chance in life to change the world.
You
But I
have.
guess in my corner, I did that, and that's I'm very happy to help. And it's a way of helping people, not just for my own gain. Don't think I'm making any money off of this. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But, it's to help people, and that's good enough for me.
Are you disappointed that there's a few other Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick? Like if you type in your name, your name shows up first, but then right after that, there's this other lady that's a Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick. But now they're putting the middle names in there to not to be confused. So.
Well, there's one at the American Academy of Forensic Science named me, Colleen Fitzpatrick, and and then one time I came across, after I lost my job, let's put it this way, in the 80s, I didn't have too much to do, so I went around figuring out other Colleen Fitzpatricks, because there was one at my gym, there was one at the other optics company I dealt with, there was one at my bank, there were several at my bank. So I sent letters out to all these Colleen Fitzpatrick asking them to come to a party at my house.
It's so weird. I mean, what's weird about it is I've had similar moments for my name, because there's
Oh, really? Gray Hughes?
because it's
That's
it's an unusual name, right? Like Gray.
Yeah,
First of
you
all,
think,
Gray
okay.
and Hughes isn't ridiculously common. So, but the thing is that there's more of them. There's like you, I mean, I know it's dumb to even think that, but I've actually found other Gray Hughes, and I send them a message like, hey, almost like I'm supposed to be your friend, because how could we not be friends if your name is Gray Hughes? I mean, my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Did people show up to your?
No, nobody showed up. Nobody answered the letters. They must have thought I was nuts. I mean, that was before the internet. I don't know.
I wouldn't doubt if they thought that. Okay, because imagine getting a letter saying, "Want to go to a party with a whole bunch of other Colleen Fitzpatricks?"
Yeah,
It'll be really fun.
I used to order stuff from an optical company really close by here named Newport Research Corporation. And after I lost my job, I continued to doing this work in the same area. So I used to call and order optical components. And they say, okay, great, what do you want? And I'd say the catalog number, whatever. And then they say, okay, give me your name and address, and I'll get it out to you. And I'd tell them my name. It would always be, oh, you're kidding. Do you know that there's a woman working here with your name? And sometimes they'd send the order to her. She was the head of the IT department, so she started piling up optical components on her desk. So finally I went over there to make a pickup, and they said, listen, we've got to get you guys together. And this girl, I'm 5'3", she was like 5'7", 5'8", really heavy, red hair from Alaska. It was not me at all, let me tell you. So I picked up a few. One was Vitamin C. She was in, that movie, was it Hairspray with Divine, and it's an old John Hughes movie with, what's it called? Hairdo, is it? Hairdo. And it's sort of a cult thing about high school proms. And it was the ugly girl in high school with the fat mother against, it was, who was it? She had a talk show. And she was heavy, and Divine
I think
was
I know
her
what
mother.
you're talking about. I can't remember her name either. But
yeah,
Lake or something?
Yeah, Ricky Lake was
Ricky
the
Lake, yeah.
younger fat high school girl, and Divine was the mother. And then they had her beautiful prom queen counterpart was Colleen Fitzpatrick, and with the mother, and she's now, I think it's the same one known as Vitamin C.
Did you ever notice in the chat right there, Emily Flotilla typed in Hairspray, but everybody else types it in afterwards because they want to let people know that they knew too. But at the same time, didn't you see that Emily typed it in, everybody? And say, yep, you got it right, Emily. You got it right.
Yeah, she gets
She gets the credit, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so, and then...
At the end of the show, you'll roll and you say, Emily,
yeah.
figured out her executive figure-outer,
right.
Emily.
Her name will scroll by.
Yeah, right. And that's Emily.
Executive figure-outer. I think it's after the word, if you put that in after executive, it lost all of its credibility. Executive and then figure-outer.
Yeah, well, they try and put everybody in the credits, and they put some name.
Yeah.
So, so that's good. Anyway, thank you, Emily.
Yeah, she was like, I remember she was bigger, and then she got really a lot thinner later on.
Yeah, Ricky Lake did.
Yeah,
and then she made a lot of money, but then she, was broke because she spent it all. You get a lot of money, you spend it, you say, oh my God, you're a movie star. And so anyway, then I read a story about her that she kind of quieted down and kind of bit the bullet, and then she got her talk show, and so she was doing very well.
What's she doing now?
I really don't know. That's a
good
question. Yeah, some of those people go into business, for themselves, or real estate, or, they have more executive or manage. They work in the actors guilds and stuff, not on screen. They work in other capacities. So I really don't know what she's up to. I'm sure she's doing well.
Let me ask this about the party that you planned with all the other Colleens. I mean, don't you think that would have... I mean, let me ask you this. You weren't sitting there alone with like a hat on, ready to go, yay, right? But nobody showed up. Okay, good. Okay.
No, I was kind of wondering, waiting by the mailbox, and like after a while, no mail was coming in.
All right.
I put my phone number and everything.
But how would the conversations have gone? Like, you wouldn't know who the hell anybody was talking to.
Isn't that odd? Right. We'd have to put little stickers with our middle names or
Although
numbers.
it is weird when you're talking to somebody in person, don't you just look at their face and say, hey, now you don't say, I think it's weird when I'm talking to somebody and I'm the only person next to them, and they say, great, now let me ask you. And I always look around and go, hey, thank God you said my name, or I wouldn't have known who you were talking to, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need to have just two people, and then the person goes, like right now. Now listen, Colleen, do you have
if they're trying to remember who they're talking to.
Maybe that's what they're doing.
I've gone to Fitzpatrick clan gatherings, and it's mind blowing. You walk into a hotel and everybody there is named Fitzpatrick, and you're going, wait a minute, I'm not Nas anymore. What happened? This is okay. Here's the check for dinner. Who do I give it to? Give it to Mr. Fitzpatrick. And everybody's like, who is? What?
But the cool part is all the women got removed from the check just by that simple statement.
Yeah, right. And that is clever, isn't it? I mean, we're very clever people. We're very clever.
That's right. I don't know if anybody else has any more questions, but like every time, maybe we can go over a whole bunch, different times, like different more
Yeah.
cases that you've gone.
Yeah, and let's get along the road. I'll keep you up to date on the boy in the car, the 1961 hitchhiker.
Yeah, it sounds like
I
we've got a
I
place to
think
put
if
the money.
we have to exhume him, it's going to be kind of tough because it is expensive. I think he said it's like $8,000 to exhume him.
That
So if
seems
we get
crazy.
that far, that's a lot of money to spend on one case.
Yeah, because we could do like 2.5 cases. With the
Right,
same
you could
amount
do
of
other
money.
cases, right. So, we have to be judicious, but, in my heart, I'd really like to identify him because he didn't get a fair shake in life.
Yeah, well, we might be able to, like, if somebody, we could do half of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We have to see how it all sorts itself out because it could be that somebody will donate the other half, or
Yeah.
you never know. So
Yeah, because
let's stay tuned
yeah.
and up on that without going off the deep end. Let's see what we can do for the poor man.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. So, anyways, I don't really have any more. Do you have anything
Anybody
else?
else? No,
Let's see what you
I'm
got.
done right now.
I mean,
who's
time
that?
always
Sam?
flies by.
Hi, Sam Greason. How are you? I see it says
Yeah.
hi. Hi.
Yep, Sam Greason. It looks like everybody just loved having you here,
Thanks,
basically.
Jessica. Thank you for the nice words, Jessica. That's
Yeah,
really
well,
nice.
you get nice words throughout the whole show.
Yeah, I can't read them because I'm getting old and they're itsy bitsy and they're in the distance on my
Well, you can go
screen.
back and watch the show and scroll down as it's going on.
Oh, I don't want to watch myself.
Well,
oh my
yeah.
God, what a little old lady I've
I
turned
know.
into.
I never watch
to
any
be.
of my shows again. Like,
Yeah.
I do a show. I was here. Why do I need to watch it?
I used to be a lean, mean forensic machine, but now I'm this little old lady that you would think, Murder, She Wrote. Think about that, little old lady that solves crimes. And you have to say, let me make a comment. We're talking about Joseph Chandler. When Margaret and I first approached, I knew the marshal anyway because I had done the Y DNA on that case. So when Margaret and I approached him about doing autosomal SNP testing, okay, now nobody had done this before. It's a vacuum. You can imagine, he's sitting there thinking, I haven't solved this case in almost, 15 years or more. And I have two little old ladies coming to me talking about something I absolutely can't understand a word they say, but they said they're going to solve the case for me. What should I do? They seem so convincing, but I don't have any idea what they're talking about. And, he trusted us with that case anyway, and we solved it for him. We go down in history for that. He's really a good man, and
that's
he deserved
amazing.
that. His father was the original investigator on that case. So
there was something I said a while back I feel sort of bad about. I remember when this first started happening, I was like, man, it must make these detectives that worked for 30 years tracking down every lead possible, and then all of a sudden the genealogists come by, and if they get lucky, they solve it in like 2 days, and they must get frustrated, but they still do a lot of work after that.
Oh,
anyways.
absolutely.
So I didn't really know that at the
Yes.
time, so that's why I feel stupid when I was saying
No, there's all kinds of work.
Yeah, they have
'cause
to
you
prove it. You got to prove it, right? You got to
right. Just
collect
because,
it.
we had a case where we identified somebody who was a rapist. Okay, so in order to arrest him, they just couldn't go and say, hey, we know who you are. Come on, we arrest you. You have to have probable cause to get DNA from that person and, test to see if it matches. And if it does, you can arrest him. You've got to bring him to the police station. And there you take DNA in front, witnessed and everything videoed. So you have two DNA samples, one to give you probable cause and the other one to really.
So that's interesting. Does the genealogy sometimes provide that probable cause?
Yes, it does. It does. So in one case, we had identified him. We knew it was him. All right. So we had to get a DNA sample. You're not going to walk up to him and ask, right? So the detectives parked outside of his house for a while, and he didn't come out. He didn't come out. So they went and had to do a bunch of COVID stuff, and they came back, and finally, you have to get DNA, but it's not on the person's property. They discard it. They go somewhere. They put their trash in the street.
Yeah.
So they followed this guy who was, driving down the street, and he rolled down his window, and he spit chewing tobacco into the road.
Oh, God. That must
So
be
the
awesome.
police stopped the traffic, cordoned it off, and they were all getting the tobacco off the road as part of the DNA
You know what's great
sample.
about that one is you could almost have scooped it up and sent it off to 23andMe because all you do is spit into this thing.
Yeah.
That probably wasn't
Could.
enough, but
Well, they were going to do CODIS. They weren't going to do the snoop
okay.
testing because at that point that was the probable cause to get that tobacco. And once they had it and they showed it matched CODIS, then they could go arrest him and get the real DNA sample they would use in court.
Oh, I see. So, yeah. You didn't really
There's two samples you need.
So you actually, but you already had identified that
yes,
person.
Through genealogy.
Right.
That is not a legal form of identification, right? But through genealogy, we gave them enough probable cause that a judge understood that it probably was him and allowed them to go collect his DNA.
Okay, and then he already had DNA in CODIS, so then they went out and collected DNA. And then, so you gave him they always like to say, you gave him a lead.
Yeah, we gave him the ultimate lead.
Okay.
I was talking to a DA's office one time, and he says, this is 2 years ago, what's genetic gene? What is it? I said, well, whatever we do, we're going to identify the guy, but all we can do is give you a lead, and once we tell you who we think it is, you go and you do the CODIS thing. And he said, okay, what does that mean? I said, okay, Joseph Newton Chandler. We identify him through genetic genealogy. In the next few hours, we had the name and dates of birth and death of his parents, names and dates of birth and death of his brothers, names of his birth, all the addresses he lived at, the name of his wife, when he got married, when he got divorced, newspaper articles about their family, the name and address of his 3 sons, including a son that died, that we had his date of death. We had his military records and his high school graduation picture.
Wow.
And that's a lead.
How do you get all?
That's called a lead.
It's a crazy lead though. It's like it has every single thing that.
Right, that's what I mean. It's not the legal form,
right.
But it's a lead. Whereas CODIS is a bunch of string of numbers.
I would call it a God lead. I mean, that's not even really. That's like ultimate lead. But anyway, like you said, the ultimate lead. So let's see. Well, I had some other thought, but I can't remember it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, then somebody in the chat said, "What about gum?" Yeah, gum, tobacco. But
straws,
it has to
anything,
be discarded
really.
DNA. It has to be discarded DNA. I mean, you can't just say on your property. It's still your property.
Well, even if it's in a garbage can on your property, though, I think that counts too.
Yeah, that counts. But if it's a garbage can in the street on public property, then.
Oh, you don't think it? Well, I think it might count even if it's. So you don't think it? You think it counts as theirs if it's still on, like the garbage can is outside their door?
You know what? I really don't know because the garbage can is theirs. But I think the intention of throwing that out, putting the garbage can on the street, is the intention of discarding the DNA. In which case, then it's fair game.
I bet you could make an argument that they were intending to discard it, even if it hasn't been moved to the street yet. But but why not just wait a couple days? I don't know. Maybe you want it fresh, though. I
think I told you the right thing about the probable cause. I think you need, a judge's order to go collect the DNA or somebody's permission. And so I think that's the genealogy would give you probable cause. Now, about collecting discarded DNA, if you need probable cause to get that, that's one thing I've kind of been thinking. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but maybe I'm not.
I wonder if it was, that must have been really tough for that first judge to sign that warrant for that, because that's just totally groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, it is. I think you can't do it in Australia either. I think that some journalist or somebody got in trouble for taking discarded DNA and, it went south in the judicial system. So I don't know if you can do it everywhere, but I do know you can do it in the U.S.
Well, Jamie asked something in there, and I think I know the answer already. She said, if a family member was a prostitute and children were from prostitution, could you ever really know the ancestors? Of course, well, sure, right? Because
you could, because you know who dad is.
It's the same thing as
a case
adoption.
With that too.
It's like adoption too, right?
Yeah, it's your unknown parentage. Yeah. We have cases where, there's mom and dad and mom and dad and mom and dad and mom and dad, dad, mom and mom and mom and dad and mom and dad, and it's all scrambled. And sometimes it's hard to untangle, who mom is if she's had, baby with dad's brother. I mean, it's happened. So. Yeah,
well, it's just DNA that it's the same as any of these other deals, right? It's like you don't know something and you have to do research and you get back.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any different, really. It's just it makes it more complicated. I think it's a lot more complicated when you have relatives that are adopted and.
We've thought we had a slam dunk on occasion. Oh my God, he's the only grandchild. It's got to be him, and it wasn't. And we started scratching our head. And it turns out Dad had a son who nobody knew about. We eventually found him, but that son could be anywhere in the world. that son could have any name, because mom is some other woman and she could be married to someone else, or mom could have just had him, gave him her name, and then married. So we've had that. It's very hard when that happens, but it's not uncommon. We had a case where dad was adopted. The killer, it wasn't us. We worked on it, but somebody else solved it. And dad, the killer, and dad was adopted, and then grandpa was adopted too. So he had several layers of adoption, and it was really tricky.
Yeah, I could imagine. I don't even know how you guys. It's all genetics, though, that let you know that, wow, he must have another son or something.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, if you have two Italian parents and the kid turns out to be half Italian and half Polish.
Well, there might have been that milkman that we were talking about.
Yeah, the milkman comes along, or, that nice French maid that the dad hires to clean the house.
Yeah.
While mom's not there.
It looks like Jamie's saying that wasn't sure if I should even try. I guess that's a situation that actually happened.
Oh, okay. So she maybe's adopted or something. I've done sperm donor children. I've done a lot of different kinds of cases, and my crew that works for me are, I have to say, unbelievably top notch. They are very smart people.
Well, it's easy for you to tell, right, when somebody, because you're one of those people. Anyway,
I enjoy working with them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That's the way you tell, because when they're good people, you enjoy working with them, and they come to you. My crew, we all talk, and sometimes they come to me and they say, I'm really stuck, so let's get on the phone. And man, we brainstorm. It's so much fun, and more times than nothing, we find a loophole somewhere that somebody either assumed something or forgot something, or something looked right but it was wrong. And so that's why I appreciate my crew, because we do that, and it's just a lot of fun.
Well, what might be kind of fun in the future would be to, I'm going to try to read the book so I know what the hell I'm talking about, at least. Yeah. But then follow along little updates on something, and maybe you could show people. I don't know if it's ever something you can do, but wouldn't it be kind of neat?
Yeah, I could do like a little video and show you what we do. Yeah, I can.
Because you can share your screen, actually.
Right? I do that. Yeah, I do that for law enforcement. I teach law enforcement classes, and I wanted to mention. I don't know, the level of interest of your people here, but the American Academy of Forensic Science is coming up in mid-February. You can look at it at aafs.org. Now this year, because it's virtual, it's going to cost, half the price. It's usually a lot more expensive. But if you sign up and you're a non-member, I understand some people don't have the money other people have, but it's $280 to go the whole week. And what you ought to do is go to their website, look under meetings, look at this year's program, and just see if there's anything you're interested in.
And what's it called again? What's the site called again?
aafs.org. I can put it in chat. I'm giving several talks there, and I'm chairing a webinar or a session with
I bought a subscription on that one genealogy newspaper.
Oh, Genealogy Bank? Oh, yeah, great. Good for you.
It was work is on two of the cases that I looked up. There was nothing on. They don't have every single thing that newspaper.com has either, but there was two cases where it was only on that site, so it helped.
Oh, wonderful! I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Now, I want to say too that if you look at the catalog, see if you're interested in any of the forensic topics. They do have talks on cold cases. I'm giving a talk Thursday night called The Last Word Society, which is kind of fun. They have all kind of other events and stuff. The workshop's $100 this year because it's all virtual, and we're giving a talk. I'm chairing a thing with one guy is going to give a talk on how to set up a cold case unit for the law enforcement. Somebody's going to talk about all the new stuff Verigen's doing with GEDmatch. I'm going to talk about all the tools on GEDmatch and some case studies, and there's going to be somebody talking about how you combine CODIS and stuff like that with the genetic genealogy into one pipeline. And so if that floats your boat, that's interesting to see. That's $100. And just go through the catalog. because I'm trying to get more people to, join or at least attend. Now, I used to be the only one for like 5 or 10 years, and now there's a dozen more people every year.
Yeah, well, I'll go check it out. That sounds like something.
Yeah, so I'm just suggesting, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but to know.
I knew you were going to say a cup of tea right after you said it's not everyone's.
It's this brain thing, it's this brain thing.
It's going through. Carolina at T said, do you know when when she first wrote it, I thought, do you know when the drama about you and Margaret, but she's like, obviously the show.
Yes, I do.
Blood relatives.
In fact, yeah. Let me tell you, it was put on hold because of coronavirus in March. They are now shooting this week in New Orleans. They're just starting. So the pilot is going to be shot like right now within the next 2 weeks.
So when's it played?
When they air the pilot, I'll find out. It has not gone to series, but almost 100% it will. So the next time we talk, I'll have an update on the schedule, but they are shooting it right now.
Yeah. How about this? Well, someone asked Jamie McLaughlin, another Irish name, sounds like anyway.
Mm-hmm.
She said if they purchase on that site that you mentioned, can they watch it later? Or is it archived?
I don't know.
Or does it have to be live?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know because we have to record. We have to record all of our talks, which really is a lot of work. I just finished one today. It's hard to do. I really don't know, but if they make it available, you will have to sign up and pay the dues to do that. You just can't look at it. All the money goes to the nonprofit AAFS. We get nothing. We just do that to spread the word and educate people.
Okay. She's Scottish, not Irish. McLaughlin.
Oh dear. Okay, now she took it. I hope she didn't. Yeah.
I hope she didn't get offended.
But I won't hold that against you, darling.
Oh boy, here we go. Here she comes back.
There she is, Scottish here. Okay, Jamie.
She said not at all.
Yeah.
Lee D, who lives in Australia, is Scottish and Irish.
Oh, there she is, yeah. Well, it's blended, and, I'm Scottish, and I guess I'm Scottish for the back, mostly Irish, but they mix to some extent.
Well, you've been on here for almost 3 hours now.
Oh my God,
that's a long time. It was fun, though, right? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was, absolutely. I mean, you get an Irishman talking about herself. I mean, God, I'll be here all night. Please put me out of my misery. Put everybody out of their misery.
Yeah, no, it's fun. So we'll just, when we have you come on, we'll just find other topics. You can even tell me ones that you'd like to talk about. Do you think?
Okay, yeah, and I'll catch you up on the 1961 case. We have to talk, if that's
we're gonna keep doing that. That's
new developments. That was good to talk about. The upcoming TV program. I can't tell you the plot, but it's interesting enough. It's TV though, Yeah. It's I'd be glad to come back anytime. As long as I don't bore people to death.
No, that's the thing is you don't have to be nervous. Like when you say, we don't have to talk about. That's what they want to talk. I mean, they're smart people in here. The thing is, a lot of the dummies they end up having to leave.
Oh, okay.
Because they'll say
we'll
something.
Have the after party.
They always say something kind of ludicrous, and then they're just off the channel. It's like the people remaining are the people with brains.
Yeah, we'll have the after party. After the concert, the real good people hang out, and the musicians come back on stage, and you have the after party.
Oh, there you go.
So
gonna drink some
all right.
scotch.
Well, look, I'm gonna grab me something to eat and just chill out, watch dance. Maybe I'll watch Dance Moms or 90 Day Fiance or something like that.
No, don't do it.
Cool off after the week.
Don't do it, man. I'm having a hard time picturing you watching 90 Day Fiance. That's what that is? That is absolutely you just going, I'm going to do something mindless now because my mind's too much.
I have to say it was, it really gets to me. I'm getting to the point I can't watch it anymore. I can't watch any more train wrecks.
That's right. Anyways, well, hey, thanks a lot. We'll probably do this, I don't know how regularly, but if you came on every week, it'd be fun. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'd have to figure out what to talk about. That's the problem.
Well,
you know, we talk about all these crimes. Pretty soon I'll be talking about going to the grocery and doing my laundry.
Well, you know what? You could actually come on and I could go over, like sometimes I go over these cases and I just read through the newspaper articles and then you could just throw out your thoughts too. Because a lot of them end up having, like, you know, just on a random time. But most of the time it would be like, you know, you have so many, you know, even on the DNA Doe project cases that you guys solved, and then you could just explain what happened there. And I mean, people just are really interested. It's a huge.
Yeah, well, I can give you a lot of backstories.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of backstories. Probably not all of them because we had so many. You know, I kept track of quite a few, like Orange Socks. That was pretty interesting. What happened there? And let me think. Got to Joe Chandler and stuff. Those were pretty. Some Lyle Skellick, we had talked about that for a while. That's how we kind of started talking.
Yeah.
Some of those classics at the beginning.
I actually remember that. I think that's true. I think I remember we emailed about.
Yeah, the debate was should they have, you know, Lyle had committed suicide. Why try and identify him? Because obviously he was far away from his family, left a cryptic note. So the question you asked me about was it appropriate to try and identify him, or should we have honored his privacy in death? And my answer was, well, we don't know really what he wanted, and that, you know, all we know is what we know, and we have to honor the living more than anything. So,
hey, let me ask you something. Remember that one case that we paid for a couple of years ago, like maybe a year and a half ago? It was it was on for the DNA Doe project, but it was called hold on, Summit County John Doe.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was identified recently, right?
No. It's Summit County John Doe out of Colorado. 2016 is when they found. It's like a sculpture. He had glasses on.
Yeah.
And it sounded like they weren't able to do anything with that. But I'd like to know, like, the reason why, or maybe if you feel like, hey, you can give it a shot. Maybe we could put some money towards you trying to do genealogy with it, because it didn't.
Well, I tell you, if the Doe project already has that, you know, they put the money and there's somebody working on it. It's not that they don't have the skill. It may be that it could be really stuck. It could be somebody from Afghanistan. You know, if you have that, you can't. No matter who works on it, you can have trouble.
Yeah, he looked like he just might not also not have had any relatives that did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. A lot of times it's the database more than anything.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, it'd be cool if you think about it. If you could ask, like, what was the? I never really got the answer of what the reason.
Yeah.
What was the roadblock at the very end?
Okay. I don't know. You could try. I could send you ask.
Yeah, I don't know if you can or not.
I don't know. I don't know if they tell me, but.
Yeah. Well, you're doing your own thing now, so.
Yeah, I am.
All right.
I'm happy to.
Cool. Well, hey, it was great having you on. Everybody loved having you again, and. I guess we will see you the next time you come on, and
I guess we will.
We'll keep communicating.
We'll talk. See, and thanks. I got my lamp, you know, so now I don't look like I'm sitting in front of a hearth.
Yeah, I told him it looks like a dance pole, though, a little bit. A dance pole. Yeah.
So I see him pole dance. That's what I'm doing when I'm not on.
God, that's so loud. That whatever sound that's making, it's like.
It's a new. I was just moving my.
Oh, there you go. Is that your? What are you using to film? Is it your phone?
No, my new. This is my old laptop.
Oh, weird. Okay.
My old laptop. It's a Dell.
Okay, cool.
If it's making a sound, I'm sorry, but it's.
I think it just affected your audio level. So hey, is it still working?
Yeah, it's just I was moving the computer. It's got some rubber feety things on it.
Well, it dropped your volume level about half. Whatever you just did.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
I made noise is what I did.
Oh. No, I mean, we can barely, your voice level is really low now.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but whatever you did sort of affected something. Maybe you need to plug it in more.
Okay.
Okay, you're just teasing me now. Okay, good. Anyways.
Okay, anyways, I assembled the lamp so quickly. Guys, audience, we had like 17 minutes, and I was in the middle of assembling a lamp to get this to work out. And so the lamp is now not straight up. It goes, because I didn't tie it together.
Well,
so there's a rocket science. Can't put a put a lamp together.
We'll see. How about you'll be eating some food and you'll figure out the
Yeah,
lamp.
well, I'll get my brain circulated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, everybody loves having you on here.
Okay,
And
thank you
we'll get
guys.
you set
Thanks
up.
everybody. Thanks for the phone-ins and everything. I love answering questions. So
Yeah, we'll do that next time too. All right. Well,
okay,
thank you.
all right. We'll talk to everybody.
Have a good one.
We'll see y'all. Have a good night. Stay safe now.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye. Oh, there I am. All right. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah. And let's see. And thank you up there for the Cold Truth, Carly Levine, Lee D, and Chad Bobinger. Right there. Thanks for the super chats. Yeah, but we gotta build up the. Oh, she's right there. Good night, Colleen. She can't she can't hear us right now because I had her pop out the chat, then close the YouTube video, so that way she could just watch the chat while we did our show. So hope you guys appreciated that, but we gotta definitely. I don't know if we're going to be able to do the one if we have to exhume the body, but because that'd use up a lot of funds, but we could probably definitely cover part of it for sure. So thank you guys very much for showing up, and we get to the. Oh wait, I actually did have some extra. Some information here. Yeah, so shit, what the hell happened there? Oh yeah. I'm gonna close out of Zoom. Hey, look at that. Doesn't that mean if you guys send me a $5 donation, it's worth 100? Yeah, so she sent me this documentary on the case that we talked about yesterday, the Kelly Jane Evelyn Cook. And I think this is like 100%. It might be right there on that peak, but that's in the exact spot. And also, I was able to determine the, let me check something out. Yeah, second. All right, so in the documentary, this is a picture of the house that's on the screen in the case that we talked about yesterday. That was in the small town right here of Standard, Ontario, Canada, right here. And by doing that, I'm like 99.9% sure that I found the house. And it was cool because I remembered it vaguely in my head, the one that sort of reminded me. And I looked down this street, and then I went down this street, and then right here, I believe that this house right here, even though they've modified it slightly, is this house. Now look how crazy. See the trees there? Look at that. They even have the start of those trees being grown back in 1981, and 40 years later, that's that same tree. They probably planted another tree there. And then if you look at this right here, see everything's just different color roof, same window there, boom, 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 boom. Then you go over here, back up this direction, and look at it like this. So they changed the awning a little bit. It doesn't have quite the arches, but then you've got that window, that one, boom, boom. Everything's the same. It's absolute identical house, other than it's been updated. Different roof here. It doesn't have the little arches there, but it's got the poles in the same spot. And it's actually, now I have the address too. It's 3 Rasmussen Place. So there you go. So now we have that in the system. They have a lot of cool vintage footage from the time too. So that is the house. Yeah, let me just check the... Yeah, so that means the neighbor was over here. They said the neighbor lived across the street, the girl that got called first. Yeah. Hold on a second. What do you mean? What do you mean by chimney? I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't really matter. It's the same house. It has every single aspect of the house is the same, other than that the trimming changed. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, that was that. And what else did I have? I had something. Oh yeah, and remember the case the other day in Colorado? Thanks, Jessica Schubach. Remember the case in Colorado the other day with the not Colorado. Yeah, it was Colorado. With the suitcases. They were just on the side of the road. Let me get to that one. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Right here. Yeah, so those suitcases, well, they made an arrest in that one. And I don't know what the guy looks like yet. They may have put a picture out since this time, but...
Thank you. New developments tonight. Denver police have made an arrest after those human remains were found in 2 suitcases in southwest Denver. Police say 28-year-old Benjamin Satterthwaite was arrested today for investigation of first-degree murder. The remains were found back on December 29th in the 1700 block of Java Way. The suspect's mugshot has not been released.
So, yeah, no mugshot released. He's only 28 years old. I think it was drug-related because I actually found a reference to this individual. Denver arrest record for inmate Benjamin David Satterthwaite. I mean, there's no way there's 2 of those in Denver, okay? And he's also was 27 at the time. And then down here, it said drug paraphernalia possession. So then you sort of wonder, you know, he's in the drug world at that point. And so maybe that had something to do with it. Yep. All right, everybody. That is it for tonight's show. Thank you very much, Colleen Fitzpatrick. Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick. She's got absolute great memory, too. You know, pulling names out so easily off of cases. Well, believe it or not, there was other people with the same first and last name, if you can believe it. But the middle name, maybe not. Oh yeah, and also they removed Donald Trump from Twitter permanently because he said that he wasn't going to go to the inauguration, and Twitter deemed that to mean that he was giving them a hint that he wasn't going to be there, so they should go attack it. I mean, can you believe that? Like that's what their assumption was when he said he wasn't going to the inauguration. Okay, and then they also Apple is shutting down their app for Parler. That was the new conservative, social media platform that was out there. Anyways, pretty crazy times. Crazy times. Yeah. So Don Lemon put out a tweet, and he tweeted out an image of the account being canceled, and then I retweeted and said, "You should be next, Don." You know. Then later I said another one. I said, "Don, you've incited you've incited hate for 4 years," and then I went into some other detail and said you should be removed. He's a clown. God, what a hypocritical jackass that guy is. So, good day, man. Yeah. Well, you should just go see. I don't remember the exact. Let me go. I'll tell you what the exact wording was. Hold on a second. I've got some notifications. I said, Don Lemon incited hatred for 4 years and encouraged violence for an entire summer by mocking the severity of the violence in what he called peaceful protests. He's a hypocrite and dangerous. Yeah, and I actually think so. I think those kind of guys at CNN are responsible for a lot of the hate that was going on in the country. They just won't ever admit it because they consider themselves righteous. That's where the difference is. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa Corinne, for upgrading. Michelle McLaws. Brian Joe. Brian Joe also upgraded. Gwendolyn B. Stacy with a cat eye donation. Jen H. Allie Cake with a cat eye donation. Lee D. Zozo. Gwen Jackson. Destiny Blazek became a member. Jennifer Rochelle. Jim Bino. Chad Bobinger. Lee D. Carly Levine. Cold Truth became a member. Jessica Schubach. And Allie Cake with a cat eye donation. Lisa Carwell on PayPal.
All right, cool. Thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah, so also make sure that you guys keep, if you can, you should go out and try to buy some of those N95 masks they have on Amazon. They're not expensive anymore. I think it's anytime you leave your house and go to a grocery store or anything like that, if you have an N95 mask on, you're pretty much safe. And just keep washing your hands, and then when you get home, wash your shit that you got, and be safe until you get the dang vaccine in there. Now, if you aren't one of the people that want to take the vaccine, you're going to have to wait until everybody else is vaccinated before it's going to be safe for you to mingle around in society, unless you don't really care if you catch it or not. It's a real virus. It's actually something that exists. Oh, cool. Yeah, and Rebecca, you don't have to throw it away. Like if you use one of those masks, bring it home and use one of those lights on them. I forget I can't remember what they're called. Ultraviolet light or whatever. Or just leave it on your windowsill for a few days, and then rotate around. So like 5 or 6 days later, ultraviolet. You use the other one, and then by the time you get back to using the first one, it's been 12 days, and the virus is going to not be there anymore on it. And you can use those masks for a long time. I think they have something like 10 hours, 12 hours or more of time that you can use them. And when you go to the store, it's only like 25, 30 minutes, right? Yeah, you can use Lysol, whatever. I don't know if I'd put a mask on my face right after I used Lysol, though. Yeah, well, no, but that's, Susanna, that doesn't mean, it doesn't create COVID at all. If you get the first shot, and you come around somebody that has COVID within 2 or 3 days after getting the shot, you're going to get COVID. Okay? That's the reality of it. And you can still get COVID even after 2 weeks of the first shot because it only gives you a 50% immunity. You actually can still get it even after the second shot and you've waited the whole time because it's 95%. You're just way protected, though. 95% chance of not getting it. Okay, so that's really good. That's record-breaking stuff. But you could also have the COVID virus, get the shot, and then you get it and you go, oh, see, it gave me COVID. I put a post yesterday out there. The shots have no chance of giving you COVID. Do you guys understand that? Put a 1 if you understand that these shots do not give you COVID. Yeah, okay, because it literally explains how you don't get COVID. There's no live virus in there like other ones, like the flu and everything. All right? Okay, good. At least there's a few people that understand. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you after the first 2 weeks, you're 50%, which isn't terrible. It's 50. You're supposedly about 50% protected after the first shot, and you wait about 2 or 3 weeks. 50% isn't much less than the 60 to 70% the regular flu shot is. But when you get the second shot in the Moderna and Pfizer version, it is 95% effective after basically about a month of your time. Okay, now the one that's coming out, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, is a one-shot deal, but it's 70%. And, I think, maybe some people will opt for that one, and that's pretty effective. 70% is freaking really good, I'm not sure what, theirs must be totally different. You don't want to get the N95 masks that have the respirator on the front. You don't want that one. The one that has the little breathing portal, whatever you call it. I think that might be the K9. You don't want that one. You want the one that's just N95, or I think there's another one that's similar, a P95, or maybe it's I don't know if it's the KN one that she's talking about there. But you can't go to a hospital with the N95 mask that has the filter on it, because you know what you're doing in that one? You're protecting yourself, but nobody else. You're literally it breathes out the same crap. Yeah, like these ones right here. You can't use these. See, they're saying N95. Well, let's see. Well, there's a particular one. Shit. I don't know. I can't see it. But this is what they look like. If you go into a hospital with these, they won't let you in. They'll even accept the regular mask over those. Just get the regular N95 that doesn't have the filter on the front. Yeah, but I would definitely get one of those. Buy it, and whenever you go to the store, just put it on. Maybe wear, I don't know if you wear glasses, great. If not, put glasses on. Get your groceries as quick as possible. Maintain your distancing in there, and you're very likely, compared to other people that just have the regular bandana stuff on, you're very likely not to get anything because you're completely protected in your breathing. You want to make sure it's got nice, usually it does. It's tight around your chin and everything. And I'm not a doctor. I'm just basing it on what they've actually said. Okay? And I totally believe it because I have family members that are doctors, and they don't disagree with any of that. Yeah, they said it's about 70% accurate. Yeah. The Johnson & Johnson one. At least the test. I don't know when it's. I think it's coming out this month, maybe. Let me see. said it could be 2 days ago. It said single shot. Well, it says Janssen on it. I'm not sure. Let me see if that's what they're talking about. That says Janssen. I don't know if that's the same. Yeah, so in December they were in phase 3 COVID-19. Let's see. Approximately 45,000 participants, given a high incidence of COVID-19 among the general population in the countries where the trial is being conducted. This number of participants will be sufficient to generate the data needed to determine the efficacy. I think I just heard their early study said it was about 70%. I don't think it's in this article though. That number didn't just pop into my head, you know. Okay, let me see what this says right here. The technique has been used successfully. Roper says, let me just read this part. Disappointment has also dogged AstraZeneca, the British-Swedish pharma company that is producing what's called a viral vector vaccine. In this approach, genetic code is inserted into an existing live virus called an endovirus, which causes a cold in chimpanzees. Having evolved to infect chimps, the endovirus won't be able to replicate and cause disease in humans, but it would slip in the genetic material so the human cell can make viral protein to train the immune system to recognize this coronavirus. As a functioning virus, it has all the bells and whistles that turn on the immune response and upset it, Roper says, which should mean it will spur good protection against COVID-19. The technique has been used successfully in the past, but trials in Britain, Brazil showed significantly lower efficiency than Pfizer and Moderna, preventing only 70% of the disease. But I think that's a good number, though. If you had told me, okay, it is, because look what it says right here. If you had told me a couple months ago that we would have a vaccine with 70% protection, I'd have said, wow, that is fantastic. See, that's exactly right. Because that's better than the flu shot. Obviously, anyone would rather take a vaccine that's 95% effective than that's 70% effective. But 70% effective is pretty damn good. You know, like if you got I don't know what the percentage of the population that would need it. Unlike all the other warp speed vaccines, Johnson & Johnson appears to be so effective that the company expects a single dose will be enough, a surprising contrast with the apparently low efficiency of the 2-dose AstraZeneca vaccine. Right. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if they're saying what a better alternative might already be available by then. However, Johnson & Johnson is testing a viral vector candidate that uses a different type of endovirus, and while it hasn't released any results from ongoing clinical trials yet, things seem to be going well. In early December, the company announced that it was reducing the number of participants in its trial from 60 to 40,000 because the high prevalence of disease in the public meant a larger proportion would be exposed and the vaccine's efficiency could be tested. It hopes to gain approval by February. Yeah, I don't remember where it said it was 70%, but definitely heard that at one point.
Find your rhythm, your happy place.
That scared me. Pfizer and Moderna are both about 95% effective. AstraZeneca efficiency varies depending on dosage, but overall data shows it's 70%. I wonder if I don't know. I've never even heard of AstraZeneca though. Right now, 60% of Americans, they will get the vaccine, but we need it to be 70% and over. It's thought that 70% of the population gets vaccinated, the U.S. will achieve herd immunity. See? There you go, everybody. Be part of the solution. Pfizer is 52% effective. There. See, this is, look at. See, here's what Susanna was just talking about. And what I just heard, too. One of the people where my wife works got COVID after the shot. But look, Pfizer is 52% effective after the first dose. You have to get the second booster to achieve near full protection. So 52% isn't bad. And as a matter of fact, if it might even, if you got COVID, it might actually help fight it as well, even if you caught it, right? So there you go. And see, this 52% is only achieved after waiting 2 or 3 weeks. So you get the shot. You don't just run into an orgy somewhere, okay? You get the shot, right? You don't just run into one, okay? Because you're going to get COVID. If you wait 2 or 3 weeks and you ran into that same place, you have 52% chance of not getting it. And if you wait after the second shot, then boom, man, you're going to be safe. Anyways, good times, everybody, good times. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a good evening. I can tell I lost a lot of you here doing this conversation. So we will see you guys later. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, thug rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher. You can try and play me like a little projector. Crime sector, here's my nectar. Professor Green is gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector. And I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor. And I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his vector. With all respect, y'all. Just remember how the fucking check ya. I have no agenda. I'm no pretender. I'm straight to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Alright, wow.
Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. Alright, everybody?
Wow, what a cool show, Gray. Man, Colleen was really interesting.
Yeah, man, she was really interesting.
Well, thanks, Guy. That's why I have her on.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, wow. All right, Mary Lou, John Boy, have a good evening. Hope you feel better there. Susanna?
Yeah, you have a good evening, too.
Hey, you too, John Boy. Let me just say good night, John Boy.
Good night, Mary Lou?
Yeah, that's my name. Oh, boy, what a maroon.
Be safe out there.